Hi, how are you? Good. How are you? Doing good, doing good.
No. The one was rated city clerk is actually.
Hi.
That needs to be.
Oh, I see. Okay, wait a minute, Chris left me with this.
No problem.
Hi.
I'm getting right here. Oh, thank you, thank you. But I'm here sometimes. Okay, because, and you can hear when they come in through Zoom. It's really good, it's just, okay. I just.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
I said, I'm looking like a going. Yay. The baby going well. Okay.
That was my fault. Okay. But I didn't see anything new there. I didn't see it.
Or something that wasn't really good. It won't be good.
I'm sure. Well, so I'd like to know. I see you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was on the call.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I would like to.
Yeah. Exactly. That just seems. I don't know what Greg's in because of Tiffany.
Greg?
Greg, I do.
Oh, yeah, I had an emergency. Yeah.
I don't think so. Well, no. Hi. How are you? Yeah? I got a couple of your items on my desk. Few things.
Like, maybe the volunteer recognition.
Yeah.
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 Because it didn't sound like they.
I mean, it's in, we were talking about it last week, so hopefully in a couple of weeks we're gonna meet now. I can look into a few things.
Okay.
I did, but anyway. All right. Wow.
Okay.
Good evening and welcome back to open session of the Redondo Beach City Council. Tonight is January 23rd. May I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Nierenheim.
Here.
Councilmember Kalujetowicz. Here. Councilmember Barrett.
Here.
Councilmember Baji absent, Mayor Brandt absent, and Mayor Pro Tem Lowenstein.
Here. We will do a salute to the flag.
I don't know, we got
Oh,
recess from closed
sorry,
session.
recess from closed session. We just did recess. Can I get a roll call for?
No, we have a motion to recess from closed session.
Right, I did roll call. So do we have any announcements?
No, we have no announcements.
We have any announcements.
So,
Okay, then adjourn to regular meeting.
yes, can I get we're adjourning to a regular meeting. Can I get a roll call, please, for adjourning to the regular meeting?
Councilmember Nierenheim.
Here.
Councilmember Kalujetowicz. Here. Councilmember Barrett.
Here.
Councilmember Obaji absent, Mayor Brandt absent, and Mayor Pro Tem Lowenstein.
Here, thank you. We will do a salute to the flag and followed by a moment of silence, so please remain standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Okay, we now have a little something, so. We have a little presentation this evening. If Chief Butler could come up.
Thank you. Yeah.
Please do. So we have kind of a fun thing to talk about tonight. That is donation of animal oxygen masks. Those of you that are out there like me who love our animals, I have a dog I absolutely adore, and many of us have cats and other animals. And so our city cannot thrive without our friends. And one of the friends we have is Friends of the Dog Park, Redondo Beach Dog Park. So we appreciate the comfort, the care, and loyalty that our dogs and pets give us every day. Therefore, we want to make sure we keep them safe wherever they may be. The Friends of the Redondo Beach Dog Park, also known as the Friends, is committed to the health and safety of our canine and feline companions. In the spirit of partnership and community responsibility, the Friends are here tonight to assist the Redondo Beach Fire Department with essential tools to ensure that our pets may be taken care of in an emergency with a donation of 8 animal/pet oxygen mask kits. So Chief, if you want to speak to this.
Thank you very much, Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, and thank you to the community. As many of you know, the fire department is really active in our communities, and one of the things that we come across when we do a rescue at a house is oftentimes pets. Just in my time here in the year and a half, we've had several cat rescues, dog rescues, and it's not just only the firefighters that are helping, but it's the community. For example, last month we rescued a dog out of a burning house, pulled the dog out, and we were able to put the dog in the neighbor's backyard safely. But there is occasion where we need to give the animals, cats, dogs, oxygen. And the masks that we use are normally for adult or pediatrics, and so this donation is certainly going to help us save more lives and also make sure that people's pets get taken to the proper emergency room. We have agreements with local veterinarians and emergency rooms for pets. So if the fire department rescues a cat like we did on Thanksgiving, we have an agreement where the police department sends out their animal control officers, and that cat was taken to a 24-hour facility to be taken care of, and then the owner goes there. But the tools that we get from the community are amazing. And I'd like to give Chief May a little bit, he could speak a little bit about operationally what we do and how we search for animals and how we find ourselves rescuing them. Chief May?
Good evening, everybody, Council, Mayor Pro Tem. Just to echo the sentiment that Mayor Pro Tem Lowenstein mentioned about the importance of pets in our lives, we recognize as your fire department how important it is to rescue not only you if you have a fire, but your valuable pets that are parts of your family. So when we go to a fire, one of our number one priorities is searching for life. And that's our number one priority. That's why we go fast. That's what we're trying to get out is get you. But if your pet is inside the house, we're going to search, bring them out, and then these donated oxygen masks are going to provide a valuable resource to help us resuscitate that pet that may be injured by the smoke or fire inside the structure. So we know pets are a really important part of everyone's family, and we were going to go the extra mile to make sure they get the best care if they're stuck inside your house in the event of a fire.
And then we have today, Captain Hoff is our canine handler, and he's our lead fire investigator. And he has Ember. Ember is one of our comfort dogs. And Gil, who's one of our community members, can come up and say a few words. But Ember is a comfort dog, initially designed to provide firefighters comfort at home, and then slowly trained to provide comfort, whether it be at the alcove, local hospitals, or schools. So I really want to thank Gil and your team for everything. And if you we want to thank you for the donation. You've been a big supporter of the department, and I know your heart is in a special place with the animals that live in our community.
Gil, you want to say a few words?
Again, I apologize, the other people with the kids that's on the way right now. I think this kind of is twofold for the Friends of the Redondo Beach Dog Park. One is acknowledging the fact that we have probably one of the finest dog parks in the state, and mostly because of the community and also the involvement of the city that definitely not only listens to us, but also talks to us. Fortunately for us, we've received some funds that allow us to take a look at what our community involvement is and what our responsibilities should be. And that is when the donation of the 8, I believe you have 8 rigs, so therefore 1 for each rig, the O2 masks that for there. And what also we'd like to do is make sure in the spirit of not only volunteerism, but also donation is that our city entities have the equipment that they need. And most importantly, this is the part that they do need. In addition to that, the dog park is actually looking next month to make additional donations to the community in that of free vaccinations as well as chips for residents in the South Bay who, and most importantly, the patrons of the dog park for that. Most importantly, it's important that our dogs that do provide us comfort and care and compassion, such as this therapy dog, that it's important that we do that. So hopefully she can show up in a few minutes, and so then we'll make that presentation. There are stickers on each of the kits that go onto the rig, in which that identifies that the masks are available, and that if necessary later on, that if we cannot, depending in the future, that somebody else, some organization can step up in making sure that you have them at all times for all our pets. And actually, the O2 masks work for both dogs, cats, birds, and anything else that is out there for smoke inhalation and such.
Thank you very much.
On behalf of the city, thank you very much, Gil, for you and
She's on.
Can we just take a picture?
Thank you very much.
Let me see where she's at.
Thank you, thank you.
Don't you have another one?
Yeah.
Oh, I see, okay.
okay. We will go on with council announcements. Councilmember Nierenheim.
Yeah, I've got a couple things here. I have my community meeting in February, and that is on the 10th of February at Alta Vista. Don't be shy, show up. We have LA County Supervisor Holly Mitchell showing up to my community meeting. So come one, come all. It'll be a big event. We'll have a lot of stuff on the agenda. I did not have a community meeting in January. It has been too much between my December, January community meeting. So there'll be a lot there, and all are welcome. And the next thing I've announced actually is a really good announcement, although it's actually, I'll save the good one for last, but I've actually got a lot of good things legal-wise to talk about. You know, when I took this position in 2017, less than 10 days after being elected, sworn in on June 6th, I was personally and individually sued along with Wayne Craig from West Garrett Waterfront. Our Mayor Bill Brand, who's and his volunteer treasurer. Our mayor has been battling for his life since June of 2019. And this entire time we've been defending ourselves in court against shills who've been following a complaint that was filed on June 15th, 2017. It was paid for the entire time by Redondo Beach Waterfront LLC. That's the conglomerate between Center Cal and Westport Capital. And we've had 11 depositions, 17 months of discovery, we'll have 5 days of trial, had a judgment, completely wiped the floor, and the judge completely sided on our side, 100%. Awarded us $900,000 attorney's fees. Of course, got appealed to the appeals court, basically won at the appeals court as well, kept our fees in place. And then we got appealed to the Supreme Court, California Supreme Court. And just so everyone knows, less than 0.5% of all appeals that ever get appealed to the Supreme Court get accepted. And it's a small amount. So unfortunately, we had to go up there, in which point in time, one of the two ways that we won our $900,000 with attorney's fees was wiped out in the Political Reform Act of 1976. But then we were remanded back down to the appellate court. And so we had another decision there, and we had our attorney's fees wiped out there because they said it wasn't, did a completely 180-degree about face on how we got our attorney's fees, over $900,000 worth, of which when we still kept incurring costs and fees and having fundraisers. That was this last June, July. And in August, believe it or not, Redondo Beach Waterfront filed a motion in court to get another $165,000 out of us, the defendants, who've won this entire time, plus another cost bill of $3,800. It's over $168,000 they wanted out of us. They filed an appeal which they lost and wanted us to pay for an appeal which they lost. They weren't even parties to this lawsuit. They were claiming to not be parties the entire time, and now they're claiming to be developer parties. Well, long story short, had a bunch of more fundraisers, and I can't thank this community enough for the fundraisers, the support, the money, the kudos, the emails. It's been heartfelt. I want to thank everyone for that. It's been huge. It's been many years. But yesterday morning, we had a tentative agreement come out on this motion that the Redondo Beach Waterfront filed. And once again, the judge wiped the floor and said, nope, you're not getting $165,000. This is ridiculous. You're not parties to the lawsuit. You were claimed we weren't parties to the lawsuit. Now you are. So I really want to thank the community who's been behind us and supporting us. Who knows what RB Waterfront has next. Our golden legal team, Gene Zimmer, you are absolutely awesome, heartfelt angel out there, amazing attorney. I mean, absolutely took out the FPPC chair, asked her a ton of questions, got her to admit on a public court that she couldn't even, she being the chair, couldn't even do math, didn't know forms. Steve Colin, who's on the historical commission, did a phenomenal job. And Bobby Nayabdadash did a phenomenal job representing us through all these years. Bobby owns Riviera House in Riviera Village. I mean, these are all been residents, people, business owners in the community. And this is what, unfortunately, this whole story has been about. It's the community against those who want to take our free speech and our rights away here in Redondo Beach. And it's developers and profiteers that have come to Redondo Beach to take their profits and walk away with all their profits and their goods and their gold and jewels, and leave us with all the heartfelt and the hurt and the divided community. And I just want to say that, I think today we as a community are together more than ever before. And I'll definitely be looking forward to be able to do my job, better job, not have these distractions. Hopefully there won't be any more distractions from this. I thought this disaster would be done, but I want to thank my fellow defendants, see Wayne Craig out there, and thank our attorneys, Gene Zimmer, awesome, thank you, kudos to you. You came up with some great legal arguments that just went all the way through. Steve Colin, thank you for doing what you've done, great legal arguments. And Bobby, you've been there all the way throughout, and you're a real fighter. So I really want to appreciate those on the legal team and the community members who've donated so much of their time and effort. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, Councilmember Cowger.
Actually, one more thing to add. I also was at the courthouse on Friday, been a lot in downtown in courthouse. On Friday morning, I picked up a $57,000 check from a guy who embezzled a bunch of money from ICAs. I found this money back in 2000, and it was at spring of 2019, and we've gone through the whole investigation with the sheriff, and then we went through the DA's office. So now I'm very, very well attuned to the whole process of sheriff and district attorney's office, and it's been a long time coming. So there's been some good news on that. There's been a lot of press on that as well, and we're quite happy to have a conviction of embezzlement there to be that done, and something I've fought hard for the last couple of years. And I want to thank the fellow executive board members, Richard Montgomery from Manhattan Beach, Stacey Armato, Hermosa, Joran Erickson. I want to give a shout out actually to West Hollywood, John Erickson, he's the mayor right now of West Hollywood, Lindsay Horvath, Supervisor Lindsay Horvath, she helped out pulling some strings. She's also the former president of Contract Cities. And Sean Ashton and Mark Henderson Gardena. Love you, man. You're awesome. And other than that, thank you very much.
Okay, Councilmember Kalajevic.
Yes, thank you. I attended the second Green Line meeting hosted by Supervisor Mitchell on last Thursday. It was nice to see so many residents that made that trip way out there, have our voices heard once again. I also want to thank our traffic engineering team for installing the leading intervals at the intersections of Inglewood and Ralston and Inglewood and 182nd. These are really busy intersections. We have a lot of students passing there, but not just students, just busy intersections. So these little changes do make it a safer, bikeable, walkable intersection. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And then lastly, my District 3 meeting is this Saturday, January 27th at 10 a.m. We'll be at the Morrell House. We will have City Manager Mike Wazanski there to recap 2023 and talk about what's to come in 2024. I know he's done this several times in other districts, so he's well prepared to answer all your questions. I hope to see you there. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Barrett.
I have no announcements.
Okay, I have two announcements. One, I want to congratulate you, Councilmember Nierenheim, Mayor Brand, Wayne Craig, Linda Moffett on prevailing on this. It's really a shame when people that are meaning to do well are punished like this. And I think the court ended up seeing the ludicrousy of this. So I want to thank you guys for all that you've done for our community. And also, I want to thank City Manager Wazanski, who was at my District 2 community meeting last night. Those of you who are subscribed to my Facebook feed, it is on the Facebook, on my homepage on Facebook. And it's great, actually. Those of you who are not friends with me on Facebook, write me an email and I'll send you the video from it. It's fantastic. It's about 45 minutes long. And it's really amazing how many items that this council has gone through over the last year. And it just continues to go up in terms of the amount of work that's done. So Thank you very much for being there. So I'm going to go back. We actually have somebody here for part 2 of our presentation. So. Okay, Judy. Judy, if you wouldn't mind coming in.
I'm coming.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I hate being late.
Oh, no worries, that's okay. Everybody, this is Judy Roboletto, and she is receiving a commendation tonight, actually several, because of our friends. Everybody can hear me fine, right? Okay. Because of our friends have been making community better since 1992, this is Friends of the Dog Park. We'd like to show our appreciation. We'd like to recognize in particular outstanding individuals who've been volunteering with their friends for many years. I know that Cindy's can't make it this evening, but Jude, let me introduce you to Judy. Judy Roboletto has been a volunteer member of the board of directors of the Friends of the Dog Park, Redondo Beach Dog Park, for over 20 years. She assists in the planning and execution of fundraisers to assist in the funding of supplies for the dog park that the city does not supply. In addition to being an active board member, Judy takes an active and literally a hands-on approach to the maintenance of the dog park. For over 22 years, Judy can be found at the dog park on the Wednesday maintenance day in the morning. And she's a jack of all trades, from tree trimming, repairing fences, mowing to fixing sprinklers or filling holes. She does this without any fanfare. Dog park, as you know, is enjoyed by thousands of South Bay residents and beyond. The cleanliness of the dog park and the safety of its patrons is her goal. She works with the city personnel to find quick and reasonable solutions to any issue that affects the park. She's a true volunteer that cares for her community. So on behalf of the city council and the mayor, I'd like to congratulate you.
Thank you.
On this great honor. So we have a few things to honor you this evening.
That's right here.
What, Renee?
Right behind you.
Gives me something to do. This is much against my.
So this is actually a proclamation, a commendation from the city. It's the President's Lifetime Achievement Award in recognition of your service with the Friends of the Redondo Beach Dog Park. Your many hours of volunteer work have contributed to the community's good and is an example for all. So we salute you, Judy.
Thank you.
And why don't we get a picture, Judy?
Okay, and then this is.
And then we have two other things, actually, two really big things. One is the Lifetime Achievement Award with grateful recognition, AmeriCorps and the Office of the President of the United States honors Judy Roboletto with the President's Lifetime Achievement Award for their lifelong commitment to building a stronger nation through volunteer service. And as if that weren't enough, we have one more thing. This is actually a really big one. This is from the White House. Everybody's heard of the White House, I assume? Let me read it to you. It is a letter from Joseph R. Biden, our president. The American story depends not on any of us, not on some of us, but on all of us. I congratulate you on taking it upon yourself to contribute to the public good, and I'm proud to present you with the President's Lifetime Achievement Award in recognition of your 5,000 hours of service to this great nation. Throughout our country's history, the American story has been strengthened by those who combine an optimism about what can be with the resilience to turn that vision into reality. I know I'm not alone in recognizing that those who are willing to step up and volunteer in service of community and country are essential to the ongoing work of forming our more perfect union. By sharing your time and passion, you are helping discover and deliver solutions to the challenges we face, solutions that we need now more than ever. We are living in a moment that calls for hope and light and love. Hope for our futures, light to see our way forward, and love for one another. Through your service, you are providing all three. On behalf of the American people, I extend my heartfelt appreciation to you for your volunteer leadership and encourage you to continue to answer the call to serve. This country is counting on you. Again, President Joseph R. Biden. So congratulations. We have a lot of things, so I'll help you hold them for a picture. And you actually have brought the oxygen mask.
I have the,
Why don't you say a few words, Judy, if you would?
okay, so I do a lot of stuff there, but I could not maintain the park the way it's maintained without the parks guys. And those guys are awesome. I asked. So they're really the unsung heroes of the park because you call up and say, hey, something's broken, and they're there and they mow and they take good care of us. And we couldn't do it without them. So I want to make sure that they get acknowledged.
And thank you so much. As a dog owner, I want to thank you. I use the dog park quite a bit.
My dog doesn't want to get on the park. No, she doesn't. She goes in, she runs to one end of to the far end of the thing, turns around, comes back, and we go home.
Every dog is different, right? So. But thank you. I know on behalf of a lot of residents of our community, we really appreciate it. So why don't we get a picture or two? Do you want to get the console as well in the picture?
Come down there.
Yeah.
Do it back here. You want to hold this as well? Oh, sure. Let's show the camera. That sounds great. I'll hold this for you.
Okay.
Go. One more.
Thank you. That's for hanging, for sure.
Yeah.
All of us is.
But then I have to make an announcement about our donation.
Sure, go
I'm
ahead.
supposed to do that, am I not?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we do fundraising, and as part of our fundraising, we don't always use all of the money. So this time, we used some of our extra money to buy smoke masks for the canine fire guys.
I'm here.
You're the canine fire guy. I was talking about the dogs. But, so anyway, I think we gave you 8, but I'm not exactly sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope I know you'll use them, and it'll
We
be good
will,
for the
well,
dogs.
hopefully not too long.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, going back to our meeting, can I get a motion and a second to approve tonight's order of agenda, please?
So moved.
One.
Oh, are we gonna remove that
request
one?
If we could, item H14, I've spoken to the city attorney, he would request that we defer that until the first meeting in February, still working through the.
So I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as is and taking out item H14.
Is there a second? On favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? Okay, and no agency recess this evening? Are there blue folder items for tonight's?
Yes, we have one. It's related to public participation on non-agenda items, numerous public communication. That's it.
Okay,
Motion to accept blue folder items?
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're going now to the consent calendar.
Do you have announcements? Did you get that? Oh, no.
You didn't have one?
Right.
Yeah, I don't want that. We're going to the consent calendar. The consent calendar is items we pass all at once unless either the public pulls one or one of the council members up here pulls them. So I will first go to council and then anybody in the public. So Councilmember Narenheim, do you have any items to pull?
Yeah, I'd like to pull items H7, H10, and H13, please.
Okay, Councilmember Kaljarovich.
No.
Okay, Councilmember Barrett.
H13 as well.
Okay. Is anybody in the public wanting to pull any items to discuss? Okay. Then can I get a motion for all items except for items H7, H10, H13, and H14?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, anything to read?
Anything to read?
Nothing to read,
Nothing to
okay.
read today.
Okay, we'll start with H7, Councilmember Nierenheim.
So Chief Hoffman, can you come down real quick? This is just real quick. I just want to get the public knowledgeable and get us kind of knowledgeable on what this item is. It is EMD training, which is emergency dispatch training for our 911 center down when you call for help, 911. Currently our dispatchers dispatch, and there's going to be a training on top of that. And basically, I'll let the chief talk about that real quick in terms of the training, what this is, and when it's going to be implemented, and when we expect it to have up and running.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Joe Hoffman, Chief of Police. So we operate a communication center in the basement of the Redondo Beach Police Department where we take 911 calls, we dispatch fire and police services, and that's where all of our communications come in. So historically, we have not provided emergency medical dispatching, which I think could be commonly referred to as pre-arrival instruction. And we've been working on a way to do that. There's actually a mandate in Los Angeles County that all agencies that dispatch EMS services incorporate pre-arrival instructions, and complying with that and providing this training is actually going to achieve that. So essentially what happens is we contract with a company that we've researched, PowerPhone, in order to provide the software for the training. It's a 24-hour training program that all of our dispatchers, dispatch supervisors, and communication manager will go through. And upon the completion of that, we'll be able to have the dispatchers provide the EMD services and pre-arrival instructions as calls are received, which are going to provide a great benefit and hopefully result in the saving of lives. And then every 2 years, there's a requirement for an update in the training, which is an additional 24 hours. And this contract here is for the initial program, that training to roll out, and an additional 3 years of the licensing. So, and if there's any specific questions about the benefits of the actual pre-arrival instructions and the benefits for the paramedic services, I've already spoken with Fire Chief Butler. He'd be able to answer any of those specific questions, but I am very confident that by implementing an EMD program, it's going to provide a greater level of service to the citizens of Redondo Beach and result in more lives saved.
So my number one question here is, when someone calls in and it's a medical call, this will prevent our 56-foot ladder truck from being rolled on a rolled ankle or a BLS call, non-ALS call?
Well, that'd be a question for the fire department. I don't weigh in on which sort of resources are deployed on fire departments and which type of calls. But
The answer is yes.
as far as the police department, we'll keep going.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this has been waiting for this for a really long time. I'm glad to see this moving forward. Like I said, my number one concern is rolling the proper amount of equipment and services and resources to the incident. Right now, we're not kind of doing that, and so we minimize wear and tear and better level of service overall. So thank you, Chief.
Thank you for the support. I think that every single step that we can take in this type of direction to increase the level of services that we provide is going to be a benefit to the community. So
thank you. I'll make a pending public public comment. I'll make a motion to approve on H7.
Chief Butler, would you mind addressing Councilmember Nierenheim's question? Thank you.
The second, the motion.
Okay,
Thank you, Chief Hoffman. Great overview. Patrick Butler, Interim Fire Chief and Harbor Master, and good evening, Council members, Mayor Pro Tem. The Chief Hoffman talked about, and Councilman Nierenheim, one of the first pieces to allow us to do tiered dispatching. Tiered dispatching is be able to send the right resource to the right type of call, is to have this EMD software, emergency medical dispatch software. And what that does is allows us to, what they call, interrogate the person that's calling to say, what illness do you have? What do you feel? Are you breathing? X, Y, and Z. And they go down this list, and based on the answers of their calls, then we can determine what type of apparatus unit to send. Even we can send apparatuses without lights and sirens, depending on the call load. And that's part of this program as well. So what it'll do is it'll allow us to have more availability of resources, less wear and tear on apparatus, and as the Chief of Police said, better service, because we can begin to do life-saving measures with chest, hands-only CPR immediately. And so that'll immediately break the chain of cycle that will save lives. So this is, to your point, this is kind of what you have to have for tiered dispatching.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Super. Okay, there's a motion on the floor in a second.
And we don't have no Zoom or e-comments for this one.
Okay, anybody in the public would like to address this item? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Now into H10, Councilmember Narenheim.
Yeah, let me pull it up here. Sorry. So item H10 here, this is a delay for rejecting all bids for the bicycle transportation plan implementation, phase 1. And basically, I'd like Mr. Wingy and Director Saman here, thank you, talk about real quick what project this is going to be affecting, what projects, and timeline moving forward in order for us to get this shovels in the ground and get money and what else we need to do and moving forward.
Sure. Ted Saman, Public Works Director. This is actually a citywide implementation of our bicycle master plan. It's going to be a significant amount of Class 2 facilities and Class 3 facilities. So it's not one specific location. I can give you a couple of examples. Nob Hill from Pacific Coast Highway to
Alta Vista.
Alta Vista, thank you, is one of those that we're, sorry, Julia?
Goes all the way to Esplanade, yeah.
To the Esplanade as well. That is one of the locations. Catalina itself, the upgrade of the Class 2 facility that's striped with a single bicycle lane today to the dual bike lanes, to the 13-foot bike lane marking. It includes several improvements, including slurry sealing of Catalina, because once you go through all that grinding and removal of the existing striping, you want to cover that up so you have a nice base to it. So this is citywide on the implementation. Unfortunately, when we went through the process, it took a couple of years just to get the approval for us to be able to advertise the project. The project itself had some federal funding. Because it's federally funding, or it's got federal funding involved with the project, Caltrans being the gatekeeper on those federal funds, we have to go through them for review and approval of our plans and specifications before we're able to actually advertise the project. That in itself took a couple of years in order for us to get to this particular phase. Once that occurred, we brought the project forward to the City Council. The project itself had a budget of approximately $2.5 million. We felt that was enough to actually implement the project. Council approved the plans and specifications. We put it out soliciting bids. We did receive 3 bids. One that was very favorable, below the budget that was there, a little bit higher than the construction budget, but something that we could discuss a little bit more. Then the contractor realized they made an error on 3 of their line items. They sent a note to the city clerk requesting that their bids be removed because they had made that error, which is a right that's actually offered to them. That in itself made us look at the next vendor. It was about $600,000, $700,000 more than the lowest vendor. And that far exceeded our budget. And because it was only 3, we are recommending the rejection of all the bids, trying to put that back out. Part of the other reason is with the lowest vendor requesting that their bids be pulled, even with the error, they would have still been the lowest vendor. But now that they've actually removed their bid, we can no longer consider them. So part of this thought process is to put it back out to bid, reconsider the line items, and what we want to do is to try to pull a couple of the line items out and make them optional tasks. So when I said the slurry seal on Catalina as an example, it's one of those elements that we could say, give us an optional bid, standalone, to determine whether we want to exercise the right to use that option or not. If that helps us keep the project, the initial core project, within the project funding, then obviously we can move forward with it. If we want to implement the optional tasks, we come back to City Council and ask if there is funding that's available for us in order to incorporate them. So at this time, our request to Council is to support the rejection of all the bids, go through the rebidding process with the city clerk. Once we've itemized the items that we would like to consider as optional, I would see a delay of us returning to you of about 3 months in total. If that happens, we'll work immediately on shuffling the bid line items themselves so that we can identify the optional tasks, take them out and separate them, re-advertise the project with the city clerk, give enough time for the contractors, obviously, to look at the project itself, give us their bids, and then vet through those bids as we were doing here, and come back hopefully with a recommendation to award that particular contract.
Awesome. I like the concept that you're getting items in there that if they fall outside the scope of this funding, we could find other funding other sources to, and end up doing that with a different program or different funding source. So that's a great concept. I like that. So you're saying this can take us about an extra 3 months. So we were expecting to get these bids coming in and awarded. And when was the expected timeline, so to speak? Was that summer months?
For implementation, I would say.
Implementation?
Yeah, so had we been able to award bids now, we would probably see about 2 months to get the contract executed and get started, get the contractor kicked off, so to speak. So we're probably 4 to 5 months from that right now. We plan to re-advertise on the February 8th edition of the Easy Reader. For 4 weeks typically we give for bids. So that's March 7th, opening bids. It'll take us a couple of weeks to analyze those and bring a recommendation to the council for award, maybe early April. Maybe the second meeting in March, but probably the first one in April is what we're looking at. And then assuming we can award it that night, it's probably a couple months from that date before we can get the contractor on site and going.
Okay, so hopefully by the summer months, we'll start having
Construction this summer. And then
construction.
roughly how long after that?
I'm trying to remember how many days we gave the contractor. It's a fairly simple project with the exception of the Nob Hill piece because we were widening the street there. So I'm guessing it's probably a 60 to 80 day contract. So that's working days. So that's 3 to 4 months of working days.
Cool. Yeah, if we get the Alta Vista done by school year, it'd be great. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve item H10 pending public comment.
We need public comment, yeah, okay.
Is there a second? Okay. Is there anybody on Zoom?
No one on Zoom and no e-comments.
Is there anybody in public that would like to speak to this? Okay. Well, there's a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. On to item H13.
All right, H13, I pulled this. I figured it would be some speakers coming down for this and want to be as transparent as possible for this program. When we last had this item, this was this is a cannabis item. So we were assigning TR West a contract to act as a third-party independent source to help us along to do a couple of things here. One, clean up take a look at our ordinance, have it harmonized with our process, and correct any measures that are incorrect in there, like Measure G if it was in there. And then help us along with the selection process. So it's back now. I've got a couple of questions for you to follow up, but is there anything else, Elizabeth, that you would, Ms. House, excuse me, that you would like to talk about on there?
I just want to let you know that John Unai, who is the chairman and principal of Terra West Advisors, is here tonight if you have any specific questions about the work they'll be doing for us. But I'm able to answer any questions you might have right now. Yeah.
Perfect. I got a couple of questions. The timeline here talks about this being a 1-year contract. Why is we expecting, and I guess before we get into that, are we expecting they are going to be part of the implementation for the selection process?
Yes. So right now, we don't have a fee schedule developed yet, so it's hard to determine exactly what the cost would be for them to process our applications. We had a general estimate, but that was using the current application guidelines as they're written. It wasn't very accurate. So what we want to do is provide us a year to get through this first phase, which is assess our ordinances, assess our application process, determine what that process is. And once we've determined that, they'll complete their cost recovery analysis as well as the fee schedule. And we can come back with an amendment to their contract to go ahead and include application processing as part of the work.
Okay. Because I saw that in the objectives, the application processing was not a part of that.
Right.
So
we want to come back to you so that we have a firm cost for that before including it in their scope of work.
Okay. So the timeline here, we sign the contract tonight. Start immediately reviewing our ordinance and the process. And we talked to the last council meeting, being able to come back to us end of first meeting in March. Am I peripheral vision? And then we would be amending our ordinance and any changes that we need to make that we agree to. I know Councilmember Obaji hasn't been here for a while. He has some thoughts. And then amend those, our ordinance, update the selection process, and then we can start the selection process moving forward. That sounds like the plan, so that should be done by May, right? Latest?
Yeah, so when we were discussing this on a phone call with his team, we certainly don't want, even the selection of those 2 final applicants, it shouldn't take beyond this year. So that's why I gave the full year to the contracts in case we take a little longer to finalize the application process, in case it takes a few extra weeks to review the applications received, because depending on which route we take, it might take a little longer for them to process 100 applications versus 12. So there's just a little buffer in that contract, and that's why that time length, but we don't believe it should even take that long.
Right. Because all the paperwork is kind of pretty much already done for us, and we're going to have to update some things on the process, and you're happy. I'm sorry, what was your name again, sir?
Good evening, council members. My name is John Yonai. I'm with Tierra West Advisors.
John, perfect. I got a couple questions for you.
Sure.
So you're aware of the conflict of interest clause in the contract?
Absolutely. We only work for public agencies.
That was my next question. Do you work with other cannabis companies or represent cannabis companies?
We do not.
Perfect. Okay. And how long do you expect this part of the process to take?
I would expect phase 1 to, dependent upon decisions and directions by council, probably 4 to 5 months. And then we'll be able to get into the next phase. And I would imagine with advertising and everything else that you would do, and depending upon your timeline for taking in proposals and applications and that sort of thing, you could really accommodate this whole process in under 12 months if you want to push it that rapidly. It's really subject to what you direct.
And when you say this whole process, you mean the ability to take applications and process applications?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Because again, the objectives didn't have, weren't part of the contract.
Phase 2. Correct.
Phase 2.
Right.
Okay. All right, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Okay, would anybody else like to address this item?
I would.
Okay, Councilmember Barron.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Mr. Yonai, for coming here tonight. And
My pleasure.
yeah, thank you, Elizabeth, and our city manager for working on this. I just had a few questions that go to the issue of ensuring we have a reliable partner in this process.
Yes.
And ensuring on our behalf that we fully vetted the issues before signing up with another consultant, including with respect to doing what we can to minimize legal liability. There's no guarantee. And if having a successful process overall.
We agree with you.
Good to hear. So I had a few questions to pick up on my conversations with staff earlier today. I don't know if they've had an opportunity to run this down, but you're here and I'll ask you about it. On the Tierra West website, there's mentions of current successful cannabis projects.
Yes.
And I want to ask you about those. So the city of Anaheim is a entity that Tierra West worked with?
Yes, we have, and they had a tough decision to make as an elected body, and having a large entity such as Disneyland there. Many factors that came into play in that discussion.
Okay.
And we drafted the ordinances as well as the tax measures.
Okay. And so I just doing some looking in the time I had, and staff may have already looked at this or not. So city of Anaheim, there was an internal city corruption investigation and a related FBI investigation. Tierra West is mentioned in the report. What was Tierra West's involvement in that? What happened?
Our involvement was really just advising the city, the council, as well as the legal team, part of their legal team, in drafting the ordinances and the measures.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the extent.
What was the corruption? What happened?
I'm not familiar with that, other than what I know the mayor went through with the property. And I'm not sure about the other aspects of that corruption.
Okay. Did you review the investigative report issued by the city of Anaheim that mentions?
No, did not.
Did not? Were you aware of that?
No.
Okay. You're mentioning in there not saying there was any wrongdoing in Tierra West is, and I'm asking because kind of the overarching theme as we go forward is, what are the lessons learned? This has been a minefield of an area. So my question is, what specifically happened? What was Tierra West's involvement? What did you learn from it? And what can you advise us to avoid, if possible, so there's not a investigation, an FBI issue, et cetera?
Well.
And look, I'm not putting you on the spot here today. I'm
and
just
I
saying
don't- I
that's
don't feel
why
that.
I'm inquiring about these issues, and I've talked to staff about it as well.
I think what I've taken away from that is that you want to bring in a consultant such as Tierra West, HDL, or some others, and you need to have that liaison. You need to have that separation. Oftentimes, you'll find that scandals take place in this particular industry because it's very litigious to begin with, and it's very much of the old runners, if you will, alcohol runners back in the 30s during Prohibition. You still are going from a sector that was legal, then it became illegal, and then you went into people still continuing to do it after it was made legal again, but still. So you're going to have that, and I recommend that our electeds try to stay as far away as possible, if you will, because you will get calls from every applicant possible to get in your good graces to do whatever. And so we just recommend that you stay away. And I think really that's what took place there in Anaheim, because as I talk about it, I'm thinking, well, what took place there? And I think there was some involvement from what I read in the newspaper, the Times primarily, was the Chamber of Commerce person was somehow involved with one of the lobbyists. And so you start to think, okay, this is getting kind of high up in that circle. And then somehow it's involved. So I would just recommend that you try to step away from that. And I believe that our time will be spent in several closed sessions talking about these types of things if possible, provided the city attorney agrees that these are things that you can address in that capacity. But there's a lot of learning that I can share that we've learned and observed that I'd like to share with you.
Okay. And Arturo Sanchez is mentioned in this investigation. Is he still with Tierra West?
Arturo Sanchez.
Yeah.
I don't recognize that name.
That's fine. Okay. Just going off your website, if I could continue, Mr. Unai.
Sure.
The city of Linwood was another representative client, and we learned just a few weeks ago that they lost a lawsuit that was filed against them regarding the collection of taxes or something else in connection with their cannabis ordinance. Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not aware of that. In fact, Ms. Hauser brought that up, and I actually texted the city attorney and asked him about that, and he said he was not aware of any lawsuit. So I'm just wondering what that arbitration was. I'm kind of curious myself now. Now that you raised it, I'm thinking, oh, what is it?
Yeah. Well, that's what I was.
And the program in Linwood, going back, the retail component really was just this past year. And so there's no retail storefronts open. However, the cultivation and the manufacturing and test labs, those were all approved through development agreements starting back in 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
And so it might be relative to one of those licenses. And that's the other thing, the live and learn. You asked about, well, what should cities be doing? There's an opportunity. It's obviously approved by state law, and you have that ability to bring it into your community if you'd like. It is a revenue opportunity. But I'd say at this juncture, because of the certain limitations, I'd recommend looking and pursuing the retail component versus manufacturing, cultivation, or testing. Those are areas of the business and the industry that really have lagged far behind and are not successful. And some of them are going bankrupt, going upside down. And you'll see this in all the cities, whether it's Long Beach or LA or others, where you see them turning over.
Okay.
But I feel very strongly about moving forward in a legal market. I, having grown up in the 70s, you saw everything that came through. And now we're trying to legalize it. And you just don't know what you're getting. And that's just like the old alcohol prohibition times. You could die and go blind from that. And so here you want to get something. If you're going to allow it, then let's make it a healthy choice versus one that's less.
Okay.
And let's go ahead and pay, in my belief, it's worth paying the higher price and not having the illegal markets available.
Okay. So with respect to Linwood, you're not aware of that. You don't know what happened, and so no
But I'm more than
lessons.
happy to look into it.
Could you?
Yes.
Any lessons learned? And instead, please, Elizabeth, if you have any information as to what happened or lessons learned. If
So just
not,
on the
no
staff
problem.
side, we did some research into it, and it looks like it was a matter of the development agreement having certain language. So they want to charge 1.5% on gross income. Well, that's what they wrote in the development agreement. What they actually want to collect on was gross revenue. And so there was that discrepancy in pay. And so I believe it is related to one of the older developer agreements from 4 or 5 years ago. But that's as far as my research got me. I don't know if Tierra West was yet pulled into that process at the time.
Right? City of Adelanto,
Yes.
that's also on your website. There was Justice Department report, wire fraud, bribes, kickbacks, some guilty pleas to federal crimes arising out of the cannabis process that was implemented. Can you shed any light on that at all?
I can on that. Our planning efforts and cannabis efforts were there for the planning and building side. So we reviewed all the plans, and I can't comment on what took place other than those types of activities, but I'm not aware of those.
Okay. Because that certainly is something we'd want to know about. What happened? What can we do in our process to make sure it doesn't happen again?
Right.
And how can you help us learn from that to the extent you're aware? Okay. Let's see, City of Cudahy?
Cudahy, yes.
Yeah, Cudahy. Kind of a similar situation, and maybe your involvement came afterwards, but the former mayor sentenced to federal prison rising out of the cannabis.
Right.
So I didn't dive deep into this. Did you come in afterwards?
We were brought in afterwards. What took place is the previous consultant team that they had brought in established these facilities, and they had payments required for community benefits and other things like that, such that the city, when we were involved, they brought us on to help balance their budget. They had uncollected amounts of about $3 million of fees that they were supposed to collect from.
Was that the cannabis management program?
Part of their community fees and other things.
Okay.
And so we came in at that point after they had already fired the other group of folks that were there. And we were able to bring in about $1.5 million of that.
Okay. So you came in afterwards after the.
Correct.
Okay, good. All right. Your team at Tierra West, do you have somebody in-house who kind of specializes in compliance and legal to help us navigate through the process?
You have a team, yes. It's myself and 3 others that are primarily focused on it. My background is really financial analysis and project management. And so I've taken it from that perspective. And so we manage it very well. I will say to all our clients, we're not going to necessarily be the cheapest, the fastest, but we are very diligent in our efforts. And we will work with you and to iron out as many of the kinks as we can.
Okay.
That's to me important. Everything you're bringing up is important, but if you don't have everything lining up, that's when you start to run into issues between the ordinance and the application, and then getting them submitted, and then reading through, and then ending up with issues by applicants. And as I said earlier, I think we're seeing less and less of it, but many of these folks are somewhat litigious. And we have to be prepared for that, because certainly my E&O doesn't appreciate it. So I want to make sure we do our best job for you.
Sure. And you have maybe not a legal person in-house, but do you have a program where you go through cannabis selection processes and cannabis ordinances?
Yes.
And identify best practices?
Yes.
At least for those that you're aware about?
Yes, we do.
You actively stay in touch with, research what cannabis ordinances are out there, what's the
Yes.
lay of the
Yes,
land as
we
far
do.
as what's
Yeah, we,
state of the art, what's working, what's not, and then
Right.
continually refine your work product?
correct. We
Okay.
do. Yeah, I think we're small and nimble. That's all I can say to you in that we're not a behemoth. I can point to a number of our consultant competitors like HDL. They have probably 190, 200 clients statewide.
Okay.
So when you look at that capacity, you're not going to get the one-on-one service that we pride ourselves in. Again, we're the boutique, we're here, and we live and die by you, if you will, because we're intended to be that way.
Right.
And we want to give you the best service possible.
Okay. And you've been doing this for a little while at least.
Yes, I have,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Thank you, John. One of the issues we're looking at is whether and to what extent to implement a tax on brick and mortar businesses in the city. And there's been a concern expressed in previous meetings about maybe the retail businesses can't take on a new tax, an additional tax, and if they can, what should the amount be? Would you be able to provide any input or assistance as we go forward in that, or is that
Are you
outside?
just referring to cannabis now, correct?
Just cannabis tax. Is that
Okay.
outside your
Absolutely.
wheelhouse,
No,
or is that?
No, we've done a lot of research. We've done it for basically every community. And we've looked at what the trends are. And there are many communities that started off very, what I would say, aggressively.
Yeah.
And they've had to tail back a bit.
Okay.
To see what's going on in the industry.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, the higher the tax is, and even at the state level, when you look at the excise component of that, you take that in consideration, that unfortunately drives the black market.
The higher tax drives the black market.
It does.
Okay.
That's the tie in there.
And you're saying there's no testing in the black market by definition? It's
Right,
okay.
right. So again, I'm a believer in that. If we're going to do this, let's do it right.
Okay.
It's about health and safety for the community. And so your residents should be getting the product they expect, or whoever comes in. You're a destination point.
Yeah.
People come to vacation here, and so you're going to get other people in too. So I think you should be in a position where you're delivering the best possible.
Fair enough. And then similar question regarding, I don't know if you're familiar with AB Assembly Bill 195 and the ability to tax out-of-city deliveries.
Yes.
Track and trace.
Right.
Is that something you and your team would be able to advise on? What amount to tax at and what the lay of the land is with respect to AB 195? Or is that outside your
We can
wheelhouse?
advise in that and make recommendations. At the end of the day, we have many clients because we're a public sector, primarily a public sector practice client. And many of I shouldn't say many, a few of our cities have opted not to, which is fine, but the reality is that they are still getting it delivered into. So you need to, as a decision makers, you're making that call to say, okay, well, hold on here.
Yeah.
If it's coming in anyway, why are we missing out? And because it goes to your bottom line.
Okay. All right, Mr. Yonai, thank you for being here tonight. Thanks for answering a number of my questions. Thank you, Elizabeth. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Narenheim?
Yeah, I got a quick call to Councilmember Barrett, actually. You brought up a good point. Regarding best practice things that you've learned. Our city manager has talked about a blackout period for council members and staff. Any thoughts on doing a blackout period and only having one representative, such as maybe Ms. House or yourself?
I encourage that, honestly. I think that would be something that would be very helpful to the whole process. And quite honestly, it isolates you as elected from being in that position, because I'd hate to be in that position myself. And, they'll call you. They'll try to reach out. And so I think a blackout period would be something that you should consider.
Okay. And the interview process and interviews that are done, a lot of times these cannabis companies send in consultants, send in a face, but they're not actually sending in someone who actually running the shop, running the operation. Do you have any thoughts on during the interview process, whether you have operators there, you have to make requirements, whether you should be there as Tierra West as a third-party independent consultant, oversee and watch?
Well, my recommendation on the interview process is, number one, that you have the primary owner, if you will, or team there. And if they want to have another spokesperson there, including their chief operating officer, because you'll find that many of these retail entities are really funded by some person or entity, and they have a person there running it, and that's the operator. That's their job. And so it'd be nice to know what the background is and who the other funders are, if you will, and the primary decision makers. Because that's really what you want to see. You want to meet the operator and the primary decision maker.
So speaking of the operator and primary decision maker in this process, what have you seen regarding the selection process and real estate, being able to quantify a good application from a bad application, being able to see if someone's going to be able to perform on a security plan or a location plan? Do you best practices seeing from other cities requiring real estate and a plan that goes along with that?
My recommendation is always to include the real estate component in the application, so you have a good idea of what you're making the decision on. It's great that you receive a package that's well done, addresses all the state mandates and all the city mandates, but is then missing a location. So you, as decision makers, are trying to figure out, well, where are they going to put it?
Right.
What area? And so you're ending up doing more guessing than making it incumbent on them, on the applicant, to say, okay, it fits the right zoning map. I can be here. I'm going to do a MOU. I'm going to do a letter of intent. I'm going to do something with them to tie it up so I can actually apply for it.
Okay. Sounds like you've done a lot of cleanup in other cities and learned a lot of lessons. And yeah, thank you very much. I don't have anything else right now.
Okay, Councilmember Barron.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. My understanding, the city attorney's office did some work or review, perhaps, potentially, I don't know, on our agreement. We have two representatives from the city attorney's office here. I don't know if you have any questions, anything to add. If not, that's fine, but I at least wanted to give you the opportunity to speak if you so desired.
We were presented with the contract on, I think, Friday morning, and asked to finish it in time for the agenda. So Ms. Shin did a wonderful job of, at my direction, dropping her other items and focusing on that. Had several substantive revisions, which the Chair West all agreed to.
Okay, thank you. A lot of information tonight. I think, Mr. Unai, you could agree this is a very important step for the city. We had our issue with HDL. I have some questions about that. I want to take a closer look at the scope of work. I don't know if that includes advising us on tax issues, which I think is important. And for those reasons, I'd like a little more time to consider this and do some additional vetting and research. So I'd like to bring this back in 2 weeks rather than making a firm decision tonight. Ultimately, that's up to the rest of the council, but I did want to put that out there. And St. Obaji probably has some questions too. I know he was.
Okay, is there anybody else in the audience that'd like to ask any questions related to this item?
I was going to say, my only comment to the council member was that
Thank you.
There is a time of, I think, 20 hours for advisory, and that would be really guided towards the measure and those types of things and taxes, yes. So it's addressed in there already.
Okay, that would be a portion of the 20 hours of the advisory?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll take a closer look at that. Thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Unai.
Joan Irvine.
Joan Irvine, District 1, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council,
city staff, people here, and people who are listening. I'm really pleased that the city is moving forward on what some of us have been advocating since 2017, legal cannabis and dispensaries in Redondo. No more delays. I'm sorry, this has been going on for way too long. Also, I request that the new consulting firm include people in the cannabis industry when they're doing community outreach and education. In fact, I'm beginning cannabis education on my monthly radio show, Your Best Life, on HealthyNet, LifeNet. It launches tomorrow. The station has been in business for over 20 years. Jonathan Chetko is my first guest. Also, since medical cannabis delivery is legal in all California cities since January 1st, Jonathan and I will be holding pop-up educational events. We will be announcing the dates in the near future. In February, my guest will be the Community Outreach Director for the Pharmacy in Santa Ana. Among several topics, she will be discussing their programs to help veterans and their PSD. Also, I request that they don't include property requirements to apply for people to apply. This limits the companies that can apply, and also there are so many places that want cannabis businesses. They approach me all the time. I'm not doing one, but we have plenty of real estate, and I think what's happened in other cities has shown that it can be delayed, and then it's really hurting the cities. Also, that they don't promote that legal cannabis businesses sell to youth. It was mentioned last week. I have some reports, if I can do a receive and file.
Motion receive and file.
Second.
All in favor?
Some reports about how actually teen youth goes down once you have legalized cannabis because it interferes with the black market. And then also, I recommend the lowest possible rate, because what was just said, if it's not a low rate, people are going to continue to go to the black market for their cannabis. And there was also, and I didn't print this out, there was a report that the black market is growing 3 times faster than the legal market, and that public health can be affected since illegal cannabis, it does not have to be tested for strength, pesticides, etc. And they sell to children. I look forward to continuing to educate the city and now their consultant to be certain we have nice-looking cannabis dispensaries in areas where seniors feel comfortable going. I ask that you pass H13, and thank you for your time.
Okay, anybody else like to speak to this item?
I'm going to take my mask off, but if any of you give me COVID, you're in trouble, okay? You too. So I've
Could you tell
spoken
us who
before,
you
Robin
are?
Eisenberg, I've spoken before about cannabis. And I did read the contract, it was online, and I would have put a few more jokes in it, but that's up to you guys. So I also am concerned about location because I think it's most important to the city for the safety of the city to have a location, because otherwise in the application, the security plans will just be something somebody made up. I mean, what if somebody puts, oh, well, we have Hulk Hogan at this entrance, and over here we have Schwarzenegger. And then they come back with a location that has 3 entrances. So it's just not good. There's also part of the application is probably going to be, how do you transport the product back and forth and also the money? And if you don't have a location, then that's going to change it all up if you have a location that's on a busier street or whatever. So I somewhat agree with Scott that, and I do agree that you guys need to take the time you need to take, because it's all about safety. I mean, Nico's Donuts was broken into twice. I mean, I understand because he has good donuts, but still, I think it's important. And if somebody's telling you, no, just do it fast, get it done, I would take that with a grain of salt. And I'd like to put this grain of salt in the record, if I could.
Motion to receive and file a grain of salt.
Second.
You want one or the whole thing?
Just one.
Yes, okay.
That's all you get.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you. Okay, I have Gregory McGinty on this item.
Not on this.
Okay. Anybody else like to speak to this item?
I have Zoom.
Okay, somebody on Zoom, please.
Okay. Devin Wardlow.
Thank you, members of the council. My name is Devin Wardlow, Vice President of Public Affairs at Embark. I want to thank the city for their diligent efforts to bring responsible retail cannabis to Redondo Beach through a competitive licensing process. As a cannabis operator with 12 storefronts throughout California, all won through merit-based licensing processes akin to that of which Redondo Beach is pursuing, I want to commend city leadership and staff for taking the necessary steps to move forward with finalizing and implementing a cannabis retail selection process. As a hopeful future applicant that has been following the city's process for a few years, I also want to respectfully urge the council to direct the consultant to update the ordinance and selection process to require property as part of the overall application process. Evaluating an applicant's proposed site is an important component of understanding the overall proposal and ensuring neighborhood compatibility. The location and building is also critical to understanding the timeline to operationalize the storefronts and the feasibility of that proposal. In the majority of licensing processes throughout California, property is required as it limits the volume of applications, reducing time and liability and workload for the city by evaluating only applications that have secured compliant property. I hope the city will consider the benefits of having the full picture of the applicant and their proposed site when selecting which operators are best suited to serve the community. Again, I want to thank city staff for their time and efforts in ensuring that Redondo Beach pursues a thoughtful and deliberate approach to implementing retail cannabis. Thank you.
Ms. Wardlow, do you have a second? Can I ask you a few questions?
Sure.
So you're going to be applying for a license in Redondo? You plan on it?
Yes, we hope to apply in the city's selection process.
What other cities, last few cities, or what cities have you gotten a license in?
The city of Ventura, the city of Chico, Redwood City, Fairfield, Sacramento, Fresno, Martinez, Alameda, Indio, just to name a few.
Okay.
All of which have pursued merit-based licensing processes akin to this.
Okay. And what else did I normally ask all these people who come? I have a whole list. I didn't write it down with me. Sorry. And you are looking to get licensed in Redondo, and you're thinking that real estate should be a requirement. It's good for the city to have. And what are some pitfalls that you have seen from prior application processes? Because I assume you've had to pay the legal liability bill when the city has been sued. Is that correct?
In every process, when there's lawsuits and issues, I think all applicants suffer from that. So I think it's super important that the city pursues a process and a policy that really ensures that you're getting the full picture of the applicant and their proposed site. I think that neighborhood compatibility is a really important aspect of successful licensing processes. So when the city has the opportunity to, I see most cities pursue requiring property. Not everyone does. It's definitely possible to do it both ways. But I think that for the city of Redondo Beach, with the limited amount of property that is available with ample parking and all the things that you want in a successful retail cannabis business, it's important for the city to be able to see that full picture.
Okay. And you guys have dealt with the legal liability, right? Because you guys, if you want a license and the city's been sued, have you guys had to pay for the financial aspect of that complaint?
As I said, we've all had to deal with the ramifications of liability with these processes.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. That's it.
Are there any other comments from the council?
I have another Zoom.
Anybody else
I'm
on Zoom?
sorry for this person.
Is there somebody else on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay. How many others on Zoom?
One more.
Okay, got it.
Okay, Jonathan Zetko.
Everyone, sorry I couldn't join you there in person tonight. I just wanted to express my thoughts that we have had the previous experience that I think we should be really mindful of in learning that the city had put forward $50,000 towards a previous consultant that got us nowhere. And the last direction that the city council had given was for the city attorney to first come back with his assessment on a variety of different things for our ordinance to be changed. I know that there's further discussions around zoning, safety as well. And I would like to encourage that we have those conversations and have the city attorney's opinion put forward first. So we would understand the entire scope of work that we presented to the consultant and that we avoid some of the mistakes that we've done in the past. So it would be my recommendation tonight that we first get the city attorney's opinion, assess that, make changes that we need to, and then you can put forward the body of work that we needed for the consultants. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I have one e-comment that supports the item.
Anybody else would like to comment on this item?
All right. I'll make a motion to approve item H13. And do you want direction as to how we want to proceed with a couple of items on the selection process and harmonizing the selection and I think, or just the approval of the contract? I'm seeing the city attorney shaking his head. Just approve the contract
You guys
and
gave us very clear direction on next steps at our last conversation. This was one of the immediate next steps. We all, at the time, felt that this was the appropriate follow-up action. We'll come back, I think, at some point with a conversation about an update to where we are with our current buffer maps and the narrative behind our ordinance there as a refresh. And then, Mike and I and Elizabeth and hopefully our new consultant will be working on looking at the various application procedures and our ordinance and ultimately making recommendations to you all on where we need to make adjustments as appropriate and to continue the process.
And after we approve this contract, we can always make amendments and changes as we see fit.
Absolutely, and we certainly fully expect to make at least one amendment as it pertains to the application process and their role in that. So, there may be more than one amendment as we move down the road.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve item H13.
Is there a second?
I have a substitute motion.
Well, let's wait. Is there a second?
Just to clarify, if I may, city attorney has reviewed, or city attorney's office has reviewed this contract and is comfortable with it going forward.
Those are two different things. So we did review it under time compressed. Normally our turnaround is not the same day. The is comfortable depends on the scope of work. And that's what you all have to decide. So I'd be comfortable with either the original motion or what the substitute motion that Councilman Barrett indicated that he was going to make. Either one, I'm comfortable. It's more, do you all want to change the scope of work? And to address your, the direction will be at the first meeting in March, contemporaneous with receiving the report from me.
Okay.
Understood.
Yeah, I'm
So
comfortable.
it's up to you.
I will second the motion. Is there a substitute motion?
I'd like to make a substitute motion to receive and file this report, come back no later than that March date with this contract to give the city attorney's office more opportunity to review it, to give me more time to vet. I thought Mr. Unai was honorable coming in here today, answering all questions. I need more time to vet this candidate candidly before I sign on the line. And I do want to, at a minimum, direct that the scope of services be expanded to include specifically assistance with collecting taxes, advising us on taxes with respect to unauthorized deliveries into the city, as well as setting those rates for our brick and mortar shops, and have the city attorney look at that as well. And come back with all of that, as I said, no later than that meeting in March. But as soon as, the next meeting in February, to a minimum, give me a little more time to vet this candidate.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. So there's a substitute motion on the floor.
Can I indicate, and I don't know which way this is going to go. It would be helpful to me in the report if we can have the contract entered into prior to my report coming out. Because it will be good to see if there are any differences in the two consultants in terms of what their experience has been in terms of the challenges they've had. So it can be any time in February, but it would be helpful to be able to meet with them before turning my report into the council.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, Councilmember Barron, the motion that passed in December with all of us here was to include the March report would come back with the city attorney having his written report, but ending up working with Tierra West. So it'd be a bit hard for the city attorney to, well, he wouldn't be able to work with Tierra West or anyone without having Tierra West on board to come back to harmonize and to work out the legal liabilities. So I think giving our city attorney the tools to be able to review would be helpful right now. And they have more time now between now and when we ask to come back in March, rather than delaying it. That would be a tremendous amount of delay in time. So that's what I was saying.
So you're saying that the delay would be vitiated, obviated by doing what?
The delay would only hurt the report that comes back in March.
He's recommending as am I, the approval of the agreement, and then the city attorney can work with the consultant in terms of the scope and anything else that needs to happen. That's what I got out of it.
Yeah.
And just, if you give me a moment, I do want to look at that. Motion from December. Does that work with the city attorney as far as being able to advise on that?
To advise on, does what work?
Well, Councilmember Nierenheim was mentioning about the timing.
So what I indicated that it would help me to not have it continued to when the report is due. Because I do want to meet with Tierra West and get their experience in terms of evaluating it to the legal pitfalls and challenges. However, I wouldn't be meaningfully, it would also work for me, whether you approve it tonight or if you continued it to the first meeting in February. That wouldn't be a meaningful delay. So either of those options works for me. It was just, if you moved it to March, then I don't get to discuss it with them before I finalize my report. So if you made the date, the first meeting in February, I'm fine with that. If you made the date tonight, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Let's do the first week in February then, first meeting in February. Huh? Okay.
But if we approved it now, we can get staff working with Tierra West tomorrow morning, correct?
If we had time, if we had nothing on our schedule for it.
Not you.
Okay, well,
What I'm
then
saying,
As soon as possible.
as soon as possible. So I was saying to get staff, because they have a lot of other things to deal with.
It's pretty straightforward. The sooner we have our support team here together, the faster we're able to process these issues, analyze the issues, and ultimately work with the city attorney's office to bring forward a complete process. The goal is to get it to you in March. That's our plan. It sounds like even if it's February 6th, we can still get it to you in March, but that 2 weeks will hamper at least Elizabeth and our team's efforts preempting that.
I don't know that we have any time between now and the first meeting in February to vote for it, because we have other stuff that's already planned out. It was what I was trying to say.
Exactly. I think my team would then wait until February 7th, of course, before we were working with Tierra West, which would then compress the schedule we would have and working in concert with the city attorney's office. So, but look, this is your schedule at the end of the day. It's how quickly do you want this to move forward? What I heard in December was pretty clear. We bring back the Tierra West contract to you in January.
Yeah.
We got that to you. Obviously, it's within the council's purview to analyze the scope of services and make sure it's complete. Certainly within all of your deliberative sphere here to decide if this is the right contract for the city. So certainly wouldn't quibble with that, but we're trying to be as on schedule with this moving forward as we can be.
Yeah, I think a delay would really hamper things. Plus, this organization has quite a bit of experience with other cities. Yes, there are things that happen along the way in other cities from all consultants. We've seen this already. I'm not sure what we're going to gain by delaying this, because I'd like the city attorney to start working with the consultant as soon as possible to get this back on track. This has been a very long and tedious process, and we're at the beginning of it. So, we've got to, I personally think we need to keep moving forward. That's my opinion on this. I understand people's hesitancy, once burnt, twice shy. Quite honestly, I understand that. But I think this gentleman, this organization seems to have quite a bit of experience working with a number of cities on this. And I'm sure that the city attorney will have plenty of opportunity to shape this and hone it in the right direction. So, it's really going to be up to the other fellow members on the council, but I do think we need to bring this to a vote. We have other items this evening to address unless it's urgent, so.
Yeah, I want to ask Ms. House a couple quick questions real quick. You've obviously spent a lot of time on finance consultant on the subject matter as a whole. This report in March is probably going to have a lot of info. Having these tools now and today, being able to work and being able to planning your schedule, would that be better? Would you see time, the ability to use that time the next 2 weeks? Or is it okay, we just move to February 6th and have a more compressed time schedule with all the things that you've got going on?
I would, of course, appreciate the additional 2 weeks on my end. For sure. It would help me just space out my research, my work with his team. Again, he has 3 other team members. They all specialize in different areas. They give me the time I need to get to know them, know how they work, and start pulling in the research that you guys want from us on March.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So there's a substitute motion on the floor.
There is with a second.
I'd like to call to a vote.
And before you do, I just want to be clear. As I stated, I'd like the additional time to do some additional vetting that wasn't fully completed. And I'm not pointing fingers necessarily, but I want to be able to do that before I sign on this in light of what we dealt with HDL. As I said, I'm glad Mr. Unai came here today. It was a good entree, but before I could sign on anything, I'd like to do that. And extending it to that first meeting in February is enough time. And then also I do want to, as I said in the motion, include in the scope of work advice specifically with respect to the taxing element. So that's the reason for that motion and why I moved. Thank you.
Okay, so is the substitute motion clear to everybody up here? The substitute
that
motion,
it's-
would you restate it again? Is it delay until February?
No, it'll be the first 6th,
February 6th.
right? The first meeting and
Right.
our first meeting is February
To
6th.
table this until February 6th and to come back, talk about everything that we've discussed, plus.
Not necessarily everything we discussed, but yeah.
But I also heard, because I could see where this could potentially go, it's to direct our office and Ms. House to work with Tierra West to change the contract to include that scope of services, which would probably change the dollar amount as well. So I'd forgotten that you said that, and, okay.
May or may not. Mr. and I indicated that it may be within that 20 hours, but I think we should have it written specifically.
Okay. Is it clear to everybody up here what the substitute motion is?
I'm clear on your motion, yeah.
Okay, clear? Yeah. Okay, we're going to do a roll call vote on this. Councilmember Nierenheim.
No.
Councilmember Kawajarovich.
Aye.
Councilmember Barrett.
Aye.
And no myself. So it does not pass. Okay, now on to the original motion by Councilmember Nierenheim. Is that clear what everybody is? Okay, Councilmember Nierenheim.
Aye.
Councilmember Kawajarovich.
No.
Councilmember Barrett.
No.
And aye. So we are back to where we started, basically.
Yeah.
So, okay. Now, we are going to go back to announcements, proclamations. We do have.
We do? Hold on, this item's not dead yet.
Yeah, you do.
What's that?
Item's not complete.
Well, you want to make a second motion then? Another motion?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So can, we have the applicant, we have the contractor here. Can you come up here for a second, Mr. John?
Yes.
So when it comes to the ask Councilmember Barrett has regarding taxes and the inclusion of that into the scope of services, scope of work?
I think what the councilman was asking was for a study on other locales and their rates. And we could include that as an additional, and maybe that's where the clarification is, because we have set aside obviously some time for that already in the advisory side. But I'd like a better definition or understanding of what you're seeking, because I think I heard delivery, and then I also heard regarding percentages on tax rates.
Thanks for asking. So both advising the city on potential tax rates for out-of-city delivery as well as brick and mortar taxes.
Right, for the rate.
For advising, just including that specifically as part of the scope of work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I would recommend, given the limit, instead of 20 hours, right now it's 20 hours of advisory services. If you went up to 40, that would probably cover it, unless you're talking about an extensive study on what current locales are charging and what their reaction is, and you want a written report. But if you want something that is fairly simplified and it's a chart of all those current rates, then I don't see that as being an issue.
And then a question for the city attorney, city manager, as needed, and clerk. So no action, no motion, this would automatically come back at the earliest February 6th anyway. Is that right?
Well, it depends. I think given that we have 4 council members here, I would probably bring this very same item back to you on February 6th as a re-agendizing of it. But it would depend. If there was a substitute motion made to not approve the contract, then that would be different. I wouldn't bring it back in February, but what I just witnessed begs for us to return on February 6th.
And you, if needed, and if it's approved, you would be prepared to have that language ready to go on expanding the scope if needed, I presume, perhaps?
I would, as a matter of good governance, likely add an additional component to the agreement that would cover this particular work. So you'd have that option to approve the contract with that scope of service based on Mr. Obaji's feelings on the matter.
Okay. All right, so that appears like maybe that's the default. I'm not the parliamentarian, but we'll see you on February 6th, perhaps.
I would have had a different answer in that.
Please.
You can bring it back whenever, but I would not.
Let's come back February 6th.
I wouldn't, given no action, he can bring it back, and he could certainly bring it back next time we have the full council. I would not feel comfortable working on amending the contract when the council turn that down.
Right.
So.
Okay.
So that's the only thing that is different.
All right. Mr. Obaji will be here February 6th, as far as we know.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
So you have an hourly rate. You base this under compensation, Exhibit C compensation, where you gave the breakdown. Is there an hourly rate? What is the hourly rate?
I'm trying to remember. Do you have?
It was $250 if I remember correctly.
I got just
actually in there. It was a blended, well, the way the budget came up, it was a blended rate. And so there's not a fixed rate. And that's how we came up with the large category denominations, if you will.
Right.
And so based upon what the councilman was suggesting, I was thinking, well, we're already at 20 hours. I don't think as long as we're in an excess and doing a full separate report, then, it's probably another 20 hours. I don't see it as being something extensive in terms of what you're asking, in terms of the guidance on that, in terms of, because we have a lot of that information already, quite honestly. And so
okay. And
I see that as something that's.
And Ms. House, our ordinance, our tax ordinance, we can't amend our tax ordinance without going back to the vote of the people, right? So our current tax ordinance involves delivery.
Under retail, yes.
Under retail, medical cannabis, right? So there's nothing we have to amend in that portion. So it's just a matter of getting this report to our council members. So I could make a motion to approve this contract and add the additional 20 hours and come back with amendment for us for those extra 20 hours for the report. And that would satisfy that requirement for that report. Right, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that would be my motion to approve this and add an additional 20 hours for the report that Councilmember Barron is asking for regarding the tax structure as we just discussed.
And to be clear, I'm not asking for a report. I'm asking for the scope of services to include advising us as we go forward, not a snapshot in this point in time necessarily. And then I also did want that additional time to continue the vetting and review. A lot of information tonight about that, including from Mr. Yanai, before I sign in and say, yeah, let's have a partnership here. So that's why I asked for that period of time.
Okay, so you're saying, again, approve the agreement and add an additional 20 hours onto this at the rate of 58,000, additional 58,000?
Well, whatever the blended rate is that they have agreed to, they're already in here on the.
Well, if I may, I don't know if this is correct, but if you look on page 12, Objective 5, technical assistant and subject matter experts, it's 10,000.
Yeah.
Which is $500 per hour because if you look on page 10, under section E, it's provided up to 20 hours. So you're paying,
So an extra $10,000.
Correct.
Yeah.
It doesn't solve, it doesn't have it written in the language we would want because there's no
Right, but
clarity.
we're
but that's
just
the dollar
doubling,
cost.
we're increasing objective E.
Yes.
E, object 5, number 1, from providing 20 hours to providing 40 hours.
Correct.
And that's essentially just doubling from 10,000 to 20,000.
Okay. That's what I just said.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I'm not saying that solves his.
Yes, I'm just making
okay.
sure that we're all
Right.
under the same, like restating that. So that
Okay,
would be my
perfect.
motion to double.
You had me scared when I was thinking it's 58 again because we'd have to go through all these things.
No.
In the interest of moving this forward, because I want to get this moved forward, I would second that based on this. I don't like spending another $10,000 on this personally.
Yeah.
I want to move forward. I think it's important that this has gone on way too long, so I'll second it.
And you are not willing to extend this to the February 6th meeting?
We don't need to. Ms. Howes needs time, staff needs time. They can prep, that way they can prep the city attorney's office for more questions as needed. I want to give staff as much time for the March report as possible. Combining this and bringing this down, we've got now doubling for Councilmember Barrett, the technical assistance in there as well. So I think he wants to delay it, and I get that, but that delay comes with time to staff and their ability to do work. I know they're busy. We put a lot of stuff on the staff right now, and I'm really want to be careful of their time. So.
Okay, is there, so there's a first motion and a second. Is there any other motions on the floor? Okay, then we'll do a roll call vote on this. Councilmember Narenheim.
Aye.
Councilmember Karadjovich.
No.
Councilmember Barrett.
No.
And I. Okay. All right, we're back to square one again.
Okay.
All right, so the issue is here, the delay. Councilmember Karadjovich?
I think to have everyone comfortable with this, given the past, what happened with our last consultant.
What happened with nothing happened with our last consultant. They just don't they don't do this in this business anymore. So.
No, I understand. So I think it's respectful that we're missing a council member and that we need a few more weeks to figure this out. I think it's a reasonable compromise.
I just want to make sure I understand that we're coming back with the same exact contract here on February 6th and the same current terms and conditions, and nothing's going to change.
I think we've stated the record pretty clearly, and now, I'm just speaking for myself, I think the record's been stated clearly as to what's transpired, and I would say let's move on with our next item of the evening.
All right, so I'll make a motion to return with this item on February 6th with the contract amendments. And yeah, that's it.
We'll prepare them as an option
As an
And
option.
then we'll probably have a discussion item
I
on
was
it.
going to say discussion, not a.
So you can, at that point, the council can make a decision as to what it wants to do.
Is this a third motion?
I mean, it would have to.
Can there be a fourth?
Yeah, make as many motions as you want.
Let's hope.
Yeah, okay.
We're going to bring it back, right? Let's looking.
We're coming back on the 6th. I think the record's clear. We'll have Mr. Obaji here at that time. Vetting will be done. In the meantime, I could guarantee you that, and I assume the staff will do so as well, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
So you're bringing it back February 6th with the option, with the additional hours.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. Any substitute motions?
What is the specific motion?
She's bringing back February 6th with an option to have an additional $10,000
Okay.
added to the scope of this. So
That's yeah.
we're going to call this to a vote. Councilmember Nierenheim.
Aye.
Councilmember Kalijevich.
Aye.
Councilmember Barrett.
Aye.
And I myself. Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now back to presentation. We do have a presentation.
Was that what I was consent calendar?
Because the person, right.
Who's back? Who's
And it's a big
presenting?
deal. So we're back to presentations. We've never done this before, but I think it's a big deal. So Cindy Zerlup, come on up. Just a reminder that the Friends of the Dog Park generously donated oxygen masks to the fire department. And the Friends have been serving the community for a long time. So two of their members deserve recognition. We recognized Judy earlier. And now it's Cindy's turn. So Cindy Zerlup has been a volunteer member of the board of directors of the Friends of the Redondo Beach Dog Park since its inception in 1992. And she was instrumental in the creation of the dog park back then. She works as a treasurer of the organization, and she has the responsibility to ensure funds are accounted for and that spending of any funds is reasonable and proper. So she's let's see, we actually have some awards to give you this evening. They're a pretty big deal, one of which is, again, a commendation from the city. And I read this before. The next one is actually a Lifetime Achievement Award from with grateful recognition from AmeriCorps with the President's Lifetime Achievement Award.
Wow.
Signed by President Joe Biden. And then finally, I read this earlier, but again, a letter from the White House recognizing the countless hours you've put into this. And we want to congratulate you from the bottom of our hearts as a dog owner. Thank you very much.
Say a few words. Well, this has caught me completely off guard. Wow, I don't even know what to say. We've been working on it for years. Judy came in and took up the reins, but yeah, this started as a.
What got you into this? Why did you start?
I got a wonderful Springer Spaniel puppy as a wedding gift when I got married in 1990.
Oh, very nice.
And there was no legal place in the South Bay to walk her.
That's right, dogs are not allowed in parks.
Not allowed in parks, and they were being impounded, and the fines were insane. And I happened to be taking a school course at that point where I had to run a survey. And I just put together a survey saying, hey, does anybody want to have a dog park in Redondo Beach? I thought I would get maybe 20 people to sign up, and we ended up getting about 600.
Wow.
And so we figured there was a need, and we brought it all before the Parks and Rec, and they said, go talk to City Council, which wanted nothing to do with it. It was a very NIMBY thing at that time. We don't want the smell, we don't want the noise, but we were able to muscle it through and prove that we could do it. And with private donations, we created that park and have kept it going since 92.
Well, I'll use this microphone.
No.
That was the start of really getting things going to making this a dog-friendly city.
Yeah.
And for those of us who are cat lovers as well, the same thing. We don't want to leave the cat lovers out there. But, I want to thank you as a dog owner, as a council member. I know the council joins me in congratulating you, Cindy, for your countless hours. And again, Judy, thank you. And thank you for the oxygen mask very much. Thanks, Gil. We all appreciate that very much. So why don't we get some pictures?
And we hope to continue to be able to provide things like that to the city and to support animal rights organizations and, Canine Corps and all that.
Well, they say that budgets and funding are an idea of the priority of the city. And I believe, funded the modernization of the dog park and repairs quite a bit. So they have a pretty good piggy bank to work with. And also thank you to SoCal Gas for helping us with that as well too. So we thank you guys. So why don't we get another picture of everybody? And why don't you hold this up, Sidi, because I think that would be a big deal. So
That is a big.
you want to hold this for you? Or do you want to hold it? Why don't you hold it? It's yours. So everybody want to come up?
Gil, why don't you come on in? Gil, come on in. Gil. Come on in, Gil, come on in. You were volunteering there all the time.
I'm wearing his man.
Okay, thank you. It was worth the wait, I hope. There you go. Great job. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
What you've done.
Absolutely. Good to see you, Mike.
Thanks for indulging us and allowing this to happen a couple times. I think it's rare that we get accommodation from the president, and I think it's definitely worth it to honor those two great volunteers. And thanks again to the Friends of the Redondo Beach Dog Park. So we're now back to public agenda items, items that are not on the agenda for tonight's meeting. And again, we have 30 minutes. It is now 7:53. We'll give it to 8:23. Everybody gets 3 minutes to speak, again, on items that are not on tonight's agenda. I have cards here, and anybody that would like to speak, either in person or on Zoom later, can speak to that. So the first person I have is Wayne Craig, and after Wayne is Jonah Rabine.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I'm Wayne Craig, President of Rescue Waterfront. As we heard earlier, yesterday, a court hearing was held to review the motion filed by Redondo Beach Waterfront and CenterCal Properties principals Fred Bruning and John Paul Wardy. The motion was to compel Bill Brand, Councilmember Narenheim, and myself and ROPAC to pay $164,000 for their legal expenses after the trial judge, not us, called them out for being behind the sham lawsuit using Shill's Chris Foisey and Arnett Travis. The good news is they lost again. While we sincerely thank our legal team for this victory, a special acknowledgement and congratulations must be made to attorney Gene Zimmer. The judge literally quoted Zimmer's response brief word for word, using it as the basis for the court ruling against Bruning and Wardy. This is a significant win for us, but Bruning and Wardy can still appeal the ruling. The basis for this latest motion was the result of CenterCal via Shill's filing a lawsuit against us in 2017. In 2018, the trial judge vindicated us of any wrongdoing and awarded us $896,000 in what experts have repeatedly stated was a slap lawsuit. Despite being the prevailing party after trial, we haven't received reimbursements for our legal expenses at all. The reason is Redondo Beach Waterfront, AKA CenterCal Properties, was able to use their vast financial resources to appeal and squirm out of paying anything. We are pleased with this big win, but it's important to remember that counting the great news yesterday, we've only actually prevailed in 2 out of 5 court rulings. These were clearing us of any wrongdoing in 2017, and the motion for fees ruled yesterday. To repeat, we won the case. That has never changed. But we have been dragged through the court system by a vindictive developer who was able to overturn the judgments for them to pay our legal fees for their frivolous lawsuit. It's also important to remember that the successful efforts made by residents to stop the CenterCal Harbor Mall has resulted in the Beach Life Festival, the new harbor amenities plan, and developing major improvements to Seaside Lagoon. Unfortunately, the battle isn't over, and the cost to throw out motions like this requires your help to stop the financial assault on Redondo Beach residents. Please go to rescueourwaterfront.org and see how you can help us out. Now, on another note, I wanted to bring up something about my neighbors knew I was going to come and talk tonight, so when they do that, they say, hey, can you bring this up? Well, the intersection of Nob Hill and PCH. I've talked about intersection problems before. If you're heading west on Nob Hill, going through PCH, the signal isn't very long. So cars are backing up the hillside just like they do on Anita. And the problem is that on Nob Hill, that when you drive across this intersection, there's that drain that really will bottom out cars. So residents are asking that we put a little bit more time on the left turn lane to allow cars to go through that intersection and not destroy their undercarriages. I know that's a setting issue with the county because they run it. But anyway, a lot of people are complaining about it. They're picking up their kids and having to race down the intersection, and they're backing up 2 and 3 cycles. Anyway, just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next is Joan Irvine. After Joan Irvine is Ron Morocco.
Joan Irvine, District 1, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, city staff, people who are here. Here to keep the Esplanade Beautiful is planning to hold its annual 4th of July fireworks event at Avenue I again this year, more in '24. We're all working on the applications right now. But to give you some background, why it's so important, Jackie Billis, who died in 2016, had done the fireworks at Rat Beach that thousands enjoyed since 2001. It was a multi-generational family tradition. When she died, it stopped. Jeff Ginsburg chose to serve the needs of these thousands of people by continuing the fireworks, and KEB brought it underneath, Keep the Esplanade Beautiful, brought it underneath its umbrella since community outreach along the Esplanade as one of its missions. We are looking for companies to sponsor this event, food, music, and celebrating our country. A day of fun for 2,000 people, plus the thousands who are going to be on the beach and gathering along the Esplanade. If you're interested in being a sponsor, it will be great visibility to many potential customers. Please contact me at joan@joanirvineconsulting.com. Also, remember that Keep the Esplanade Beautiful holds its first Saturday sweep on February 3rd. We meet at 9 a.m. near Saks on the Beach and then walk to the Esplanade. This year, Keep the Esplanade Beautiful implemented the new program as part of our community outreach. We're engaging with other community groups to participate on our first Saturday sweeps. Beach City Health District is partnering with us on the April sweep. Leadership Redondo will sponsor one, and we're talking to other groups. Also, we're very excited that USC, for its International Day of Service, March 23rd, is including the KEB First Saturday Sweep. With all the USC Trojans in Redondo, this should be a really nice, large gathering of volunteers. By the way, I was speaking with the Fireworks Environmental Service Company. He said that they need to clean up the beach both on July 4th and then again on July 5th in the morning. So we were talking about maybe holding our first Saturday sweep on that Friday and to gather all the people in Redondo, whoever wants to come, and have them go to the beach and help them pick up whatever is left over, and then we'd have to bring it to them, and then they dry it, and then they have to weigh it and all that. But just to have a community-wide event, to have people help with this will be absolutely fantastic, and it really looks good for Redondo when you have everybody out there helping to clean up, and maybe there might be some tourists in town who want to participate in something like this because it's environmental. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Ron Morocco is next, and after Ron is Nikki Negretti Mitchell.
Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, City Manager, City Clerk. The day before yesterday was a landmark event in Redondo Beach history. Sunday marked the 75th anniversary of the Redondo Beach Charter, which was adopted in 1949. It was adopted by the Secretary of State, approved by the State Assembly and the State Senate. It's a pretty remarkable document when you think about how many documents there are that survive that long. It changed the way Redondo Beach governed its city. It's a framework to do business. Now, what came out of that is our city manager serves as our CEO. We are fortunate to have Mr. Rosansky serving as that CEO. At the risk of running out of time, I do want to quote him. He wrote something up last year that I think is appropriate to share with you. The council manager form of government, in my view, is the most efficient and successful form of local government and is utilized by over 3,300 cities and counties across the country. What makes it special is it blends representative democracy with professional executive leadership. It is the role of the mayor and the council to create a collective vision for the city and set policy that incorporates the will of the residents, and it's the role of the city manager who's hired by the mayor and council and is granted broad executive authority to implement the policy and run the day-to-day operations of the city in a manner that is professional, apolitical, and focused on delivering quality services to the community. And I think we have a really good example, and those are good words for our city to run by. We, the residents of the city, voted for this charter. It's a partnership between the residents of the community, the council, and the city manager as the CEO. We as the residents entrust the council to select a person qualified to be the CEO. We as residents get the opportunity to amend our charter and change that dynamic of that relationship. Some proposals are accepted, some are not. We had a recent example of a bunch of amendments that went through, and we've had over 25 times has the charter been amended, and it's a public process that I think is something that we should be proud in. I do invite the public to attend in person or by Zoom. We have a charter committee meeting on this Thursday, and according to our agenda, it's going to have on it the city attorney, the city treasurer, the city clerk, and term limits as the topics of discussion. So I encourage the public to get involved in the process, and happy 75th anniversary.
Thank you. Did not know that. Thank you so much. Nikki Negretti Mitchell, and the last card I have is Holly Osborne.
Hi, good evening. Nikki Negretti Mitchell, District 3. And thank you to Nils Nierenheim for stepping up as alternate for the South Bay COG, which have avoided and dodged the Sea Line topic for a year now. They should have discussed it, done homework, deep dive to fact check us, research into other metro lines and retail corridors to compare cost benefit, engage with other impacted residential communities to get a reality check on how unfavorable decisions worked out for them, and finally examine the big picture on how this major infrastructure would affect our cozy corner of LA County. Last Wednesday was Metro's Planning and Programming Committee meeting where they heard Metro's status report on major projects, which included the Sea Line. Director Mitchell's extra public engagement was on it, so I commented that the big disappointment at the December walk in Lawndale was Metro presenters' continued use of outdated information and lack of knowledge on more current updates. I explained what that does is give the wrong impression as to actual cost differences and possibilities for mitigations. It enables vapid arguments against us, which prolongs the stress and frustration we have been saddled with for over 13 years. The following evening was Holly Mitchell's town hall, which to my astonishment was the first presentation by Metro on the Sea Line that excluded all of the outdated information and erroneous data. The format was curious. Attendees were split into random group tables, given a scripted set of questions that I figured out had to have been tailored for the young transit advocates, and giving them the opportunity to hear all of our talking points for Hawthorne and why not the right-of-way. We could see some were open and reasonable, some weren't, and seemed to take this as a bitter fight. I hope they're listening to this right now. At my table, the December walk got characterized as racist and our advocacy for Hawthorne Boulevard as being elitist. Just when the old curmudgeons have finally stopped with their disparaging rhetoric towards us, now these kids think they can move in and try to smear us. That is a terrible strategy for the group South Bay Forward. The ones who are saying that need to realize both Metro and the board of directors know us well enough to know how out of line and flat out wrong that is. I'm a forgiving person, but I always have a problem seeing people being unfairly treated or abused, and will stand up for them. And maybe that's in my Native American DNA, the peaceful warrior, defending my land and my tribe. Thank you.
Thank you. Holly Osborne is the last card I have, and anybody who'd like to speak after Holly can speak.
This is Holly Osborne, District 5, and I'm unscripted tonight, which is sometimes dangerous, and I've got two topics. But the first one I've wanted to ask for a long time is I keep getting calls from people that saying they're representing an energy efficiency program either passed by the state or the feds, and they've got all this money that they can fix up my house, roof, this, that. And I know that in the past, the state has had a program, it was called PACE, where they appropriated money, but the catch was it came out of your tax bill. So it was no out-of-pocket money to you, but then you found your taxes went up. And I still remember a woman before the state senate crying because she had not realized it. They attack people that they think are vulnerable. And I don't know what groups they're attacking now, whether it's a certain age demographic or a certain people who have a house demographic. Mine was built in 47, who are going to need these improvements. Now, none of you look like you're attacked for the age demographic reason, but I would like to know what is the catch with that program. Okay, now half my time is up, so I'm on my other topic. I hope you can ask you smart people. Okay, so my other topic is, of course, the Green Line. People have had tours, and the tours always avoid the really difficult parts of building on the row, okay? And when I ask questions, I am reminded gently that that's off limits and I'm not supposed to go there. Of course, I'm like Aaron Brockovich, that does not keep me out with me and my yardstick or my whatever, that things do not fit and that there are errors in their plans and that the parts that they don't want you to see is where the damage occurred on the district in the row between Artesia and Grant, where the sinkhole appeared and damaged the condo complex. They don't want you to see that. They don't want you to see the erosion on the other side. They don't want you to see the narrow part of Lawndale where it is too narrow to fit what they want. And Nikki can talk about the stuffs out down in 102nd. But if you get any executives that want to tour the row, make sure you give them the tour of the parts that they're not supposed to see. And I am not afraid to go there. Okay, because I talked to a representative of one of the senators that wanted a tour, and I said, I'll give you a tour, but then it's forbidden, okay? That's all. Get your handcuffs.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on non-agenda items this evening?
Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, it's good to see you again. My name is Gregory McGinnity. I've been a resident of Redondo Beach for about 20 years. I'm here to speak to you again, and I know there's been an extensive conversation on the decision you'll be making regarding a tax on cannabis sales in Redondo Beach. The tax should be set at 9%. At the last City Council meeting, I presented some top-line information about the damage that legalized cannabis will have on the Redondo Beach community. Today, I want to focus more on the damage that cannabis will do to our youth. Marijuana use among young people in quote-unquote legal states like California is rising. According to the National Survey on Drug Use and Health from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, a federal agency known as SAMHSA, prior to the pandemic, youth use of marijuana among 12 to 17-year-olds rose 14.5% in California. That same SAMHSA study indicates that both monthly and annual marijuana use by 12 to 17-year-olds and 18 to 25-year-olds is significantly higher in legal states versus non-legal states. In marijuana users aged 12 to 17, substance use disorders are twice as prevalent in marijuana users than users of nicotine, alcohol, and even prescription drugs, according to the Journal of the American Medical Association on Pediatrics. According to a paper in Neurotoxicology and Teratology adolescent marijuana use is associated with an increased use for depression, suicide, and psychosis, mental health issues worsened by the pandemic. And as I noted last week, the Wall Street Journal recently reported doctors at Boston Children's Hospital are treating more children developing psychotic disorders from cannabis use. Nearly a third of adolescents they see for checkups say they are using cannabis, and a third of children using cannabis report experiencing hallucinations or paranoia. My hope is that you will do what you can to minimize these adverse public health outcomes for Redondo Beach youth. We know that marijuana companies are marketing their products to our youth using packaging and flavors that appeal to them. That's their job. This is taking a page out of the tobacco company's playbook. Similarly, I will hope that you will take a page out of the playbook that was used to protect our youth against big tobacco. Numerous studies demonstrated the suppressive effect that increasing the state tax on cigarettes had on youth consumption of tobacco. Those higher taxes reduced the number of children who tried and eventually became addicted to cigarettes. By setting the cannabis tax at the maximum level, 9%, you will protect our youth by discouraging them from trying and using cannabis on an ongoing basis. I hope you will use the power the voters gave you to protect the youth of Redondo Beach. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the public who'd like to speak that's not spoken? Anybody on Zoom?
I have none on Zoom and no e-comments.
Okay. Okay, now we're going to move on to item N1, discussion and possible action regarding a charter amendment related to the instant runoff voting system and authorizing the city attorney to prepare an ordinance amending the city's municipal code to implement a voting method in March 2025. City Clerk Manzano.
Yes, thank you. So on March of 2024, the voters overwhelmingly voted for the instant runoff voting system, 76.67%, so that we would not have separate runoff elections for city offices. The council needs to select a method to conduct the instant runoff. My recommendation is to select the one method that has tabulation equipment certified from the California Secretary of State, which is ranked choice voting. There are a handful of California cities that have conducted ranked choice voting, such as Albany, Berkeley County, and City of San Francisco, Palm Desert, and I've also included a couple of ordinances from different cities as samples. At this time, I'm seeking direction from council to authorize the city attorney to prepare the ordinance for ranked choice voting with my assistance. And then also the city clerk's office will also prepare voter education and outreach plan. We will utilize the draft plan from the county and city of San Francisco attached, which is very extensive. And we are also reaching out for help with County of Humboldt Register recorder. He will be doing their first time of doing a ranked choice voting for the city of Eureka. And we actually spoke to him yesterday, and we asked if we can come and visit, and then he also said he would come and help us when we do our ranked choice voting. And City of Eureka has already created an ordinance, and after him going through that ordinance, he has some suggestions. So he's going to go back to City of Eureka to change some of those ordinances, and he'd be willing to look at our ordinance when we create it. And also the voter outreach, City of Eureka is right now doing theirs. So we will coordinate with them so that we can also make it very solid. And because that's my concern, is more the voter outreach, because that's going to be a very, very, very important thing for this. And that's it. I don't know if anybody has questions.
Well, I would just start by saying I think it's a great step forward for us to move towards ranked choice voting. There's lots of reasons. We don't need to rehash them. We've already made the case to voters. My own suggestion would be we stick with your recommendation. STAR is an additional thing that we can look at somewhere down the line. I don't want to be the first ones doing it. I think we can learn a lot from the cities like you said, Albany and Berkeley and Eureka. That's golden to get that information, I'd say, in terms of educating voters, tabulation equipment, et cetera. I personally think we should stick with ranked choice voting for right now. I don't know how anybody else feels. Would anybody like to speak to this item? Okay, Councilmember Nierenheim.
Start voting, other voting systems aren't. We are our own charter city, so we could choose our own way to elect. Correct?
Correct.
So we could use star system.
That, you could use whatever you want, but from my point of view, I'm, really would rather work with something that's certified, especially the equipment. Otherwise, we're going to do it manually. So that's,
We don't want to be Florida.
excuse me?
We don't want to be Florida. No offense to.
No hanging chance here.
No offense to Florida. It's a great state.
But yeah, so that's why I strongly support that what's certified for ranked choice voting. They've already done it, so it's equipment that's already been proven. And that's why, if we're going to do instant runoff, that's why I select that.
It's going to be a challenge no matter what. This makes it less of a challenge than, sorry, Councilmember Nierenheim, you got the floor.
Any other questions?
It's okay. So what you're asking us now just to look at these ordinances and implement these ordinances?
No, actually, I'm asking to select ranked choice voting and then direct the city attorney to create the ordinance. And then we will come back with all the choices related to ranked choice voting in the ordinance. And then at that time, we can discuss and what we found from the other cities. The sample ordinances was just there, so you just sort of understand what kind of ordinance we're looking at.
Did you provide any of the other, you did not provide any of the other, like star voting or other examples? You just provided ranked choice voting for us?
Yes.
So we can only evaluate ranked choice?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see here. And a lot of people have come to me the last few months and brought up issues with ranked choice voting in different states, Maine, New York, Alaska. How do we ensure, first of all, are there different types of ranked choice voting? Different methods?
The only one I know is ranked choice voting, which is in California.
Within ranked, because, well,
But
there are.
for different cities, different states, I don't know. I didn't do research for different states. I just looked at California.
So you just, okay, I see.
So really there's ranked choice and then there's star if we want.
Correct. Oh, that I
But
know
within
of.
ranked choice, there's some different variations.
Right. That's what's been presented to us in the past.
So you're only presenting to us what the state of California has deemed to be certified.
Yep.
Okay. That's it.
Okay. Anybody else would like to comment on this?
Yes, I didn't.
Okay.
I think the comment was made about this one being the one that is certified. And then you talked about preparing voter education and outreach. You don't have a plan for that just yet, but I did read through that. I think that's an important process for people to understand and trust the process. This change is not always received well, and I think that's a very important part of this implementation. So I'm looking forward to that.
I would also recommend that we consider putting together for educational a video.
Yep. We're looking at video, mock elections, presentations at all the different
Mailers.
associations, whatever we can.
Even maybe having some type of a webinar or a community town hall that people can participate in. But we can come to that conclusion.
Yeah, exactly.
About
We're
that.
going to create a
Meetings we can do.
I have an idea. There's a student government group, and they choose their student body. Can we approach the school district and perhaps have them try out ranked choice voting to do their student body?
Do a mock.
Yeah. They have a real election.
Well, I will tell you, we have a youth commission that
We do.
we are working very hard to fill.
You're picking up what I'm putting down.
Thank you. Yes. Okay.
I like it.
I'll take that suggestion.
Okay. I know Councilmember Barrett, do you have any comments? Or no?
I do not.
Okay. Anybody in the audience like to speak to this? Anybody on Zoom?
I have none on Zoom, and I have 3 comments, and they all support.
Okay.
Okay, so the direction you need from us is to direct city attorney, work with city clerk to create an ordinance. I'll just make a motion to direct city attorney, working with city clerk, to create an ordinance for ranked choice voting. And to come back to us, when do you need it come back to us by? Probably if the election's going to be called in September, October, you probably just need to be done in place by July. So working off by July, August, that's going to take some time to amend our ordinance, create an ordinance, amend it, probably by April.
Yeah,
Right?
Yes, that would be, yep. And then I'm going to bring the voter outreach program because we need to budget that.
Bring back a voter outreach program as a budget response report.
Yeah, I could do that.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, at the same time, so that we can pre-plan, or during mid-year, and it's also included at the budget season as well. Correct. And any other voter outreach methods. And also to, as third thing, go to the youth commission and bring this to the youth commission and ask them to get the student body to start talking about doing something like ranked choice voting.
I will just say, we don't have a youth commission right now.
We don't have one?
It's inactive right now.
It's inactive?
It is empty.
We don't have enough people.
Why is
yet.
it, why?
It's been empty for 2 years.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
I think COVID.
It's COVID, yeah.
Oh, that's why they didn't, okay.
So this could happen maybe beginning of next school year would be.
Yeah.
Why wait? This is good time. These kids need to learn.
Maybe we don't make that part of the motion, but.
Yeah, so.
Draw that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
We'll speak with the district and see what we.
Yeah, converse with the district. Third thing, converse with the district to see their student body government and see if they can maybe do a mock ranked choice voting, because their parents are going to find out about it and it's going to start working through a different method to get to the parents' ears.
It would be interesting. It might be able to be published in the high tide and everything else.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
As long as not high tide, not high
Make that a
times.
second, I would say making that a secondary thing. Like,
Just reach out.
Is there a second to that?
Well, before I do, does the city attorney, city clerk understand the motion? Any comment on it or concerns?
Well, I'd like to get a second before we have them comment on it. So, you have a second?
As I understand it, I will make it a second, yeah.
Okay, now, sure, go ahead. City attorney.
I would, if you could have, I'll bring it back in April, not as an ordinance for first reading and introduction, because there are several issues of which you'll need to make policy decisions on. For example, San Francisco learned that they needed to put a cap on the number of candidates for a particular office, because it wouldn't work with more than, I think it was more than 10 candidates. So there are real issues here that you're going to have to struggle with in terms of, do we have that issue? Do we need to plan for that issue? What if our system doesn't, what if ranked choice voting will crash and not work well with, 14 particular candidates for a position? So there are substantive issues that you will have to decide, and I'm not going to pick among them. I'm going to, present them to you so you can decide. The ranked choice voting, I have significant concerns, not so much legal, but as a former candidate. I'm not at all sure that it's going to work the way you think it does. And finally, it's the dad of a former ASB president. As you're struggling with it, I can't imagine the school doing it now before you pass the ordinance. I can't imagine that.
Reducing it to them, whether they choose or not, is a totally different conversation.
Okay. So anyways, but you're going to have substantive issues. San Francisco, as I recall, won the election, but there are issues, like if you say the first X number of
Pardon me,
candidates.
San Francisco won the
The challenge to their lawsuit, as I recall.
And San Francisco wanted to limit it to,
They limited it to 10. I think they'd
and the
had.
court said that was okay.
That's
That's what you're going to be looking into.
Yeah, I was just
okay.
reading through the Daily Journal a while ago and saw that. But that's what I'll be looking into. But there is significant, and we'll need to work with the clerk's office to find out, has the capacity of the ranked choice voting machines, improved since that. But that's one of the issues where it's not going to be a simple fix. It does eliminate, and all the positives about eliminating runoffs for a while. The research is mixed on whether it will reduce negative campaigning or actually save us money. It's an unknown. So and that's why right after the election in March of last year, I was reminding you, hey, you proposed a charter amendment that passed, but it just said we're getting rid of runoffs and we're going with an instant runoff vote. And so just plan on spending some time discussing those issues.
So maybe it'd be wiser for us to have this come back in March because this ordinance has to be in place by the time we call the election. That's in September.
Yeah, but I won't have time to bring it back in March. It's just because we've got so many court dates between now and then, and we have the cannabis report at the beginning of March. It's like April is as soon as I can get to it, but it will help by having that discussion. But just plan on really, whatever research you each want to do to see where have other cities run into it. We may not, maybe changes in technology. I can't ever remember where we've had more than 10 candidates for an election. So that just may not apply to a smaller city like us.
I ran against 11 others for school board.
That's-
That was it.
Well, but see, school board doesn't.
It's different.
School board isn't covered by
And there's no
this.
runoffs and everything else is.
Right, so we won't be
Right, and so, but if you,
But there
I
hasn't
can't
been.
remember 10 for a council, I can't remember, and you have even less chance because we're not an at-large city, we're by district. I can't ever remember 10 for mayor. I can remember like 5, 6.
Yeah.
Something like that. And so if the technology is now, like, you're not going to have problems with fewer than 10, then maybe we won't have those issues. But I just, we really do need to get this done by September 1st, I think, because that's, right now, we have no rules for how you elect our next mayor and 3 council people and city attorney. We have no rules. And so we need to get that done. So a lot of things can move. This is not one of those things. So.
Understood.
And the other thing too, in September is when we do our vendor contracts.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to make sure it's right.
We're done it by July. Let's aim for July.
That's what I'm hoping.
That would be fabulous.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. There was a second by Councilmember Kaljevich, right? Okay, any substitute motions? Okay, I'll do a roll call vote real quickly. Councilmember Nierenheim.
Aye.
Councilmember Kaljevich.
Aye.
Councilmember Barrett.
Aye.
And I myself. Thank you. Passes 4-0. Okay, item N2, discussion and possible action regarding qualifications for appointment to the Harbor Commission, introduced by title only, ordinance, blah, 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 blah. This is about qualifications for appointment to the Harbor Commission. So, City Attorney Webb.
I believe Greg Kapovich is on Zoom. I can introduce it. I don't know if he's not feeling well or if he's got family obligations, but.
WED, Greg Kapovich.
Yeah.
Greg Kapovich.
Because this is so this has been a long time coming. We had, I think back in, whenever Stephen Proud left, I remember if that was.
2 to 3 years ago?
Yeah, like even before that, so there's an issue, the way the ordinance reads, it says the harbor lessees shall present 5 names, and the mayor shall pick one of those 5 names. Now, it became not through any action of the council, there was a King Harbor Pier and Lessees Association, which was run by Joanne Turk, and they would give the names. But then they stopped giving 5 names. And so the last time it was, we think the current commissioner should be reappointed. They just gave 1 name. And then Ms. Turk passed away. That organization ceased to be an ongoing nonprofit. And so we had it introduced and it was passed. And I think at the last hearing, when it came for second reading, and the way it reads now is the 2 organizations, which are both ongoing. You have proof in your packet as of last Friday, I think. They're still operation. They're to consult and give 5 names. However, in the event that they don't, it becomes a general position that the mayor can nominate anyone and the council can approve anyone. There was an issue that Councilman Nierenheim brought up last time, which was whether someone had a PAC. And so the clerk checked, and the only organization that had a PAC that was active was the organization that is now terminated, that was run by Ms. Turk. So there's no evidence of either of those, the 2 organizations in the amended ordinance having a PAC, and there's an out. So that's a high level. I can go into more details, but.
Okay.
And just a point of clarification, unfortunately, Greg had to come home this afternoon due to kind of a family emergency. He's on Zoom if you have any specific questions of him, but I would just chalk this up as a housekeeping item that's been a long time coming. Even if, in your view, there are perhaps additional changes you'd want to make to qualifications down the road, I would encourage us to move forward, update the ordinance tonight, clean up this particular component of it, and perhaps give direction on other thoughts you might have, or send it back to the commission for formal recommendations on future subsequent changes. This we really need to fix because we have a defunct organization that's listed that is no longer valid. So
Well, the organization isn't listed. The reason is because the first time since we started to discuss this, the mayor now has a position to fill. Or it was, you had the position filled, now you're coming up on the.
In October, though, it will be open.
Right. Why can't we just have an at-large?
You can if you want, but that wasn't the direction that the council gave.
Because I would assume that if the mayor appoints somebody, they would have the interest of the businesses down there at heart. We have requirements, very stringent requirements, more than any other commission that represent people, engineers, lawyers, boat owners, et cetera. Someone who just likes being around the harbor, likes businesses down in the harbor, and maybe an environmentalist that is very important, whatever it might be. To me, that's just the simple way of doing it. We don't really have that unless we do this and we get less than 5 names. It seems like a lot of hoops to jump through. Why don't we just make an at-large appointment? But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Councilmember Nierenheim.
The way it's said here, 1 member shall be selected from a list, not less than 5 names to be submitted by the King Harbor Lessees Association in consultation with the Redondo Pier Association. 5 names should be submitted to city clerk's department no later than 30 days, blah, blah. If less than 5 names are submitted or less than 5 names qualify for the appointment as determined by the city clerk, the appointment becomes an at-large.
Yeah.
So here's the problem I have with this. So first of all, when we talked about this in January 3rd, 2023, exactly over a year ago, the discussion centered around the transparency and ability for the mayor to choose someone. And the problem with having 5 names here, we don't first of all, I'm going to say this. Since a year ago, now the International Boardwalk is talking about having a new association. So by specifically naming an association or associations plural, prevents future growth. And we want to be able to preserve that growth and have that in there. So what and the other problem is, of these names that are submitted, we don't actually know the transparent process, what meeting, how the names are chosen, who was chosen for this particular list that they were supposed to give to the mayor. So the motion that was made and passed unanimously a year ago was the motion to strike the qualification requirement for this position and instead make it a general position, and instead have the harbor peer leases submit voluntarily suggestions for a list of their suggestions. And turning it into essentially, if the mayor doesn't like that position or a list of people, then to have the position turn out large. And I like what you had to say, Mayor Pro Tem. It's what about, I'm going through the list of requirement here. It's an architect, a member of the bar, a real estate broker, a general contractor, a commercial developer. I mean, what about somebody who just likes the harbor, an artist, or somebody who just wants to come down and walk around and enjoy the harbor, somebody who's handicapped, doesn't have anything, somebody who's retired. I appreciate having the lists, having the lessees be able to put a name together. Don't mind continuing that tradition, but I don't want that to be the requirement. So for section B, I would change section B to one member may be selected from a list of names submitted by any harbor association. The mayor may select a member from these groups or select an at-large member. I can put it on the screen if you want. And the reason why is this, because I don't want to dismiss the sailing club down there as well. The sailing clubs are down there, and those are associations. King Harbor Yacht Club's an association. There's just a lot of different groups down there, and I think if we keep it open and broad, and the mayor, we don't want to have a hold on the mayor to this because their selections are not public. We don't know how those selections are done. For all we know, one of the associations could sit there and go, who donates the most amount of money? That's going to be our list in 1 through 5. That's, literally what they could do. We don't know. So that's what I would like to change it to. It's a real simple change. It keeps it open, still keeps it within the scope, and also strike the last paragraph, the mayor and council would declare individual appointed in the harbors and peer lessees members. Strike that whole paragraph out.
If I may, that's what's going to be my suggestion. I'm not certain so keep in mind, you were taking a half step before. The way it reads right now, the way it should have, but was not being followed, was one member shall be selected from a list of not less than 5 names to be submitted by the harbor and pier lessees, such list to be approved by a majority of the harbor and pier lessees. That hasn't been happening. I don't know if it happened way back then. So I don't know putting the list in there saying, and making it non-binding makes sense. It may just
So then just do,
yeah,
okay,
if
that's
you want to
fine.
just make it general, then the mayor can,
All right.
because some may want to take in.
I like that suggestion.
Yeah, that way it's taken out. We're not having a harbor and piers position, and we're just making one general.
It's also hard to get 5 people to step up. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah,
I remember we tried to do this and no one submitted.
Well, and that's why we put the date of no less than 30 days prior to the job, because what if they nominate 5 and 2 of them have no interest and one of them
Or not registered voter.
Yeah, he isn't qualified. So we're trying to deal with that. Whereas if you just make it general and take out that second paragraph, it's a substantive policy change, but it makes sense.
It simplifies, it
And
makes
there's
sense.
nothing that would prevent the mayor from consulting with any one of those associations and selecting
Hopefully
that
they
large
would.
appointment, right?
Okay,
So
all right,
just, it would be one member shall be.
an at-large.
Yeah, one,
So
at large.
I'll make a motion to change section B to the mayor may select a member as an at-large member.
Where you just, I think you can work with what you have there. It would be one member shall be selected.
Mayor shall be, no, mayor can select an at-large member. That's
It's as simple as you can get.
simple as you can get, right?
Well, doesn't the mayor inherently select?
And then strike the rest of the section and the paragraph.
It could be, well, and I'll come up with the language, if you know, like, it could be one member shall also be selected at large.
One
Just
member
period.
shall be, yeah.
Selected at large.
There you go, selected at large.
Because the mayor does that. And then we'll return with that for a second reading at the next meeting.
Perfect.
I'll second that motion.
We can bring it as a consent calendar item next time.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
I seconded the motion. Does anybody like to speak to this item? No? Well, Councilmember Barron.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Is the appointment for this position subject to approval by the city council?
Yes.
And is the language that's being proposed for B, change that?
No. It will be selected by the mayor. I'll put, if you want to put in, the position, all of these positions have to be confirmed by the city council.
And that's clear, and nothing
Yes.
that we're discussing to do to B
Correct. And
changes.
I'll double check that there's no unintended consequence. But the general rule is you cannot be appointed as commissioner unless until you're confirmed by the council.
Okay, thank you.
Supreme Court Justice.
As opposed to, say, it's exactly like a federal judge, as opposed to, say, what you dealt with last week when Councilman Nierenheim became the second alternate, or the alternate, that's chosen by the council. The mayor doesn't have a role in that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody in the audience like to speak to this?
I have someone on Zoom.
Okay, somebody on Zoom?
Mark Hansen.
Hi, everybody. I wasn't expecting these last minute changes. I was simply going to say I support staff's recommended ordinance. It was consistent with what I'd recommended in the past. I'm a little uncomfortable that it sounds like we're taking away an avenue for the businesses to put in an input. So you might want to, I don't know, between now or the second reading, kind of mull that over in your minds. It seems like a drastic change. Zansky, that I just thought this was a housekeeping issue. The King Harbor, or HAPLA, I should say, had ceased to exist, and now we have the Harbor Association, the Redondo Pier Association. Just to clear up some history, Joanne Turk actually was heading up the King Harbor Association when she made her last recommendations of 5 people, but highlighted Matt was accepted. So anyway, I'll let you guys ponder that some more on, whether we really want to push the businesses that much away from this process. A little bit beyond the scope for tonight, I rushed over some last minute thoughts for a future meeting, not for this one. But I pointed out that the qualifications for the Harbor Commission are much more restrictive than any other of the commissions, with 5 of the commissioners having to satisfy one of those 13 qualifying disciplines. And importantly, no discipline shall be represented by more than 1 member. In the past, we've had the sad situation that we've had well-qualified, interested community members who could not serve because their particular qualifying discipline was already taken by a sitting commissioner. So I suggest in the future, it might be beneficial to make those qualifications a little less restrictive, perhaps by allowing for 2 commissioners with a given qualifying discipline. Second point I wanted to make is the boat owners who have served over the years. I've been attending for 24 years now. Those strong contributors to the commission. In fact, they are highly respected and are very often selected by their fellow commissioners to serve on important subcommittees because they have such a strong familiarity with the harbor due to regularly using the facilities. So to allow for more than 1 boater rep, regardless of qualification under one of the, you could tuck that in your hats for when it comes back, or maybe as it was suggested, referred over to Harbor Commission. As long as we've opened this, might be a good time to see if we can make this a little bit more effective. Thanks so much for your attention.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else on Zoom?
No one else on Zoom and no e-comments for this one.
Okay, there is a motion and a second on the floor. If there's no other motions, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Narenheim.
Aye.
Councilmember Kaljavich.
Aye.
Councilmember Barron.
Aye.
And I myself. Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, introduction by title only, ordinance number 3268-24, ordinance of the City Council, City of Redondo Beach, California, amending section 2-9.1704 of Article 7, Chapter 9, Title 2 of the Redondo Beach Municipal Code regarding the qualifications for appointment to the Harbor Commission as amended.
Thank you. Okay, on to city manager items.
Just one announcement, just a reminder, I think the council's all aware of this, but for the community, we have no city council meeting scheduled for next Tuesday night. There is a charter review committee meeting occurring, I believe, next Wednesday.
No, this
No,
Thursday.
I'm sorry.
And then GPAC.
This week, and then we've got GPAC, thank you, Eleanor, scheduled for next Wednesday night. So the General Plan Advisory Committee will have its final meeting. I believe there might even be gifts sent out and
Is it the final or is
congratulations.
this like? the-
Final. So that
You be
is.
selling tickets for this?
I think it's a combination in person and Zoom, so, you can tune in at your leisure. But yes, that's next Wednesday, the 31st, but the council will be dark on Tuesday.
Wow, long time. How long has it been constituted for?
I think almost, at least 7 years, maybe even 8.
When I first got on.
Thanks to those people. Yeah, it's been.
Oh,
a
yeah,
long time.
2017 in the
A
spring.
very long time.
Yeah.
Very long time coming. So they will wrap up their work, and the next stop will be the Planning Commission and then ultimately the City Council.
Okay, looking forward to it. All right, mayor and council referrals to staff. Councilmember Narenheim.
Yeah, I'm not going to make this referral yet, but this list of names of permits that was posted in the Easy Reader, over $500,000 worth. I want this to be as part of the audit. I'll follow up with Ted, our Public Works Director. But it's really concerning to me to have hundreds of permits in here worth over $500,000.
Yeah, it's over 10 years old, that list.
And some are over 10 years old. There's one in here for $87,000.
Unpaid permits?
Without getting into too much discussion, there's a set of deposits on file associated with outstanding public right-of-way permits that hadn't been finalized. No final inspection was ever requested. And in order for us to close those accounts, we have to give notice to the public. So that's what notice is what Councilman Narenheim is referring to. There's a process by which the developers can come in and request those funds. They have to close out their various inspection requirements, whatever it might be. Each of these cases is unique. Different conditions are approved with each of these projects. Some might be
Money's held by the city?
in deposit, yeah.
Interest-bearing account?
And the challenge, well, it sits in a sitting holding deposit account that's untouched.
It's a city escrow.
So it's a city escrow effectively, and we have to carry and account for these funds on a recurring basis each and every year with every audit. So periodically, it's good practice for us to close those accounts, sweep them, make sure people come in, finalize their permits. This has been about 10 plus years since we last did this. So we're trying to play catch up on that, reinstitute that process, and that follow-up will occur later.
We can work together on this if you'd like. What I'm concerned about is it goes under unclaimed property and the city just takes it, and there's a lot of money here and potential liability. So I'll work on this further with Director Saman, but definitely want to bring this to the council attention, and that this needs to be part of included that audit for the community development moving forward, because this is a big deal. Potential liability there as well.
Yeah, we'll include it as a list of the best management practices that we have our organizational assessment team look at. Obviously, the frequency needs to be improved if it's been this long.
Okay. Harbor sailing program, when's that coming back?
That should be back next month, from what I understand. So hopefully you'll be hearing from our two individuals on that based on your inquiry.
Okay. Do we have an employee wellness program, by the way?
We do, a general employee wellness program, yes.
Okay. All right. That's it. Thank you.
That'd be interesting to know about the wellness program.
I need some wellness.
I definitely need one.
You have a wellness program.
I do, my company has one. It's a great one. Yes. All right, Councilmember Kaljavich.
No, thank you.
Councilmember Barron.
No.
Okay, I actually have two fairly quick ones. One is I want us to look at the intersection of Anita/Redondo and PCH for signal timing as well as lane striping. There's some issues with having, we can get into it, I don't want to.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
What's that?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay, and then also the item brought up about Nob Hill, PCH. I realize that's Caltrans, but.
Yeah, we'll look at the signal timing. I took notes when we were listening to the concern and yeah, that unfortunately, Caltrans would have to be a partner in that conversation, but we'll take a look at that issue.
Yeah, well, we've asked them to be a partner in several conversations, as you recall, so.
Hopefully no E76 is required to make a change. We'll be fine.
Okay. We will not be recessing back into closed session this evening. So can I get a motion then and a second to adjourn to the next meeting of the council, which will be on Tuesday, February 6th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are closed. What?
Actually, I do need to make a motion. We need to make a motion to direct our city attorney to sign work with and create a contract for employee review for the third-party service, MJM Services. It has to be done out here. We can't. MRG Services.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can't do that in closed session. We'll do that out here.
Oh, that's correct. That's correct. Is there a second? Okay, there's a second. Any comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yeah, motion passes 4-0. We are recessed and adjourned.
You love that thing.
I do. I'm gonna get one for my house.